Thank you.
Thursday, Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. I was reading, sorry. Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. I'd like to invite Servant Leader Fields for invocation and remain standing.
So, Father God, we just come to you in the precious name of Jesus, Lord. We just thank you for the mayor and the council here, and for the new people that come on board, and for the sheriff, and the vision that you've given us as a city to lift up you and to counsel the matter. So, Lord, I thank you for the council tonight, that the stuff that's on the agenda, supplies of the impact vehicles, and for the fire station and all the equipment they need, Lord. We know that it takes equipment to be able to run and go out there and do stuff to help people. So I just thank you, Lord, that the needs will be supplied by the city through the council, that they will hear the hearts and minds of the people, and the stuff that's on there in new business or old business, and everything that we need. So I asked again for wisdom. I asked for the truth and for the unity, and for them to make counsel, and that it will be good for not only for the city, but for us and for the people and for the community. For you're the one who helps us in these areas. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Please.
Mayor John Ashuber,
Here.
Vice Mayor Chris Mayer,
Here.
Councilman David Mueller,
Here.
Councilman Robert Hubbard,
Here.
Councilwoman Lisa Burke,
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer,
Here.
City Manager Matthew Koppler.
Here. Thank you. Okay, we have no minutes to approve tonight, so we're going to move on to comments from the general public. I do have a few sign-ups. Start with Danny Fields. Welcome.
Name's Danny Fields. My address is 8114 Little Kid. Again, I just want to thank you for everything you guys do. It's so great to partner with you guys and the faith-based church and the government working together. I've got a few things I want to cover. We just did Waterfront Park, the Easter story about Jesus, and the real story. We had over 400 plus people there. We logged in volunteer hours over 200 through the faith-based church and community. We spent over $10,000+ just in that event. That was done by the faith-based church and our community to be able to get out and celebrate. I thank you, Mayor, for being there and speaking to the people, Dave Mueller and others, the fire department. Wow. The people was so great that they enjoyed everything. The little fire trucks and the ambulances and all that you did, and passing out that candy and stuff like that. It just pours out into the community, and that's what I'm here about. Just reminding us, that there's so much we could do. I know we do the celebration for, the 100 years of being in Newport Richey, but there's so much that we're doing and continue to do, and growing and networking together with our businesses and growth. And I got to commend, what you guys keep that park excellent, clean and nice shape. And when we leave, we clean it back up. You probably noticed that, right? It's just nice. So we honor that. We're grateful for Public Works and all they do. And I'm so grateful for the police department. I think the new chief, me and him, is going to talk about things that'll be coming up and be part of that, as well as the community. And so I got a little bit of time left. So, when you got all these different communities and people come together, motorcycle Christians and family and that, the people, Mayor, you was there. I mean, for a little city, all that happened there, and we could do that 5 times and plus, it really pours into community. It brings business, it brings faith, it brings hope, it brings unity. It puts the city on the map as a place where people recognize it. The comments, if you could just hear what I get, because I'm on that team, and people come up to me, Danny, the mayor was here, and that made me feel good, and the police and the fire department and the community, and it makes for great public relationships. And okay, now I got a little bit of time left. So on, it's called Pour Out to the God of Hope, and that would be Jesus, and be filled. In Romans 15:13, it talks about a thing. What is happening is in our government in the United States, this is the 74th anniversary of the National Day of Prayer coming up May the 1st. And just give me a minute, and I'm almost.
Go ahead.
That'll be Thursday, May the 1st at 2025. That will be at 8731 Citizen Drive here in Newport Richey at Pasco Government Building. And we're going to be at 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We're going to be having an event there. We're going to be praying. Usually the police is there, and the sheriff and the county commissioners and all that. And we worship. We pray for the government and leaders. And so, Mayor, you've been there before. It's a big event, and we never have no complaints, so everything goes good. But we got a lot on the agenda tonight. I just want to thank you for your time and for recognizing that we're here with you to partner with you and partner with God and just watch each other be encouraged. And I'm all about faith, I'm all about family, and I'm all about growth and unity, and for black, white, young, and old to be a people to come together to a place where we can live, play, work, and be known as a place where they want to live and come and visit and spend their money and come in and be entertained. In Jesus' name, amen.
Appreciate you. Jessica Ferranda, welcome.
Hi, my name is Jessica Ferranda. Be a little patient with me. I don't do speaking like at all.
Yeah, need your address as well for the record.
All right, my address is 5106 Limestone Drive. And I'm here because I was one of the flood victims from the recent hurricanes. Starting with Hurricane Idalia, my house was the lowest in the land over there on Limestone, and unfortunately it was flooded a little bit there and received a little damage with that hurricane. We had started looking for assistance through FEMA. There was an SBA disaster loan that we were applying for to get the home repaired and back to habitable. And so I didn't realize at first that we needed to get an inspection after that flood, and then we ended up receiving a notice of demolition from the city back in January 2024. And I came in and I asked if we could just repair the damage at that time, and I was told that I had to pay $400 and file an appeal, and that they wouldn't be able to issue any permits until that appeal was over with. Over the following months, I came in multiple times to Building Services and asked for a status update, when the appeal would be taking place, when I would be hearing from the city, and was consistently told that they were working on it. They'd get back to me. And life just kind of happened. It was, a lot of events came up for me. I tried to come in about every month to get an update, and I didn't hear anything. So by the time, hurricane season had come around again, they were saying, just resubmit the appeal. So I tried that, but then we had back-to-back hurricanes, and unfortunately they were much worse. They completely flooded the house. It blew out some floor joists. The home was uninhabitable. And we started cleaning up again. Sorry, it was a bit much. I had told Development Services that since the house was irreparably damaged, it was an older 1950s, cracker house type of thing, and that we just go ahead and demolish the home. We had been putting plans into place to build on top of the detached garage. Had a structural engineer come out and look at that. And we were still working on our SBA loan to get funding done. But that hit snags with, they changed systems on us, and so it kind of got lost. I hope you don't mind if I go over just a tad.
Just make it quick.
Okay, sorry. So there's more to the story, but in the end, they had only given us a 30-day permit to demolish. I'd asked for financial help, or if they knew of any financial help, and they hadn't. So I paid for the demolition permit, and I had not realized it was only a 30-day permit because originally I'd been told I would have 60 days to begin work. And that's what it says in the fine print of the permit. I have a copy of it if you guys need to see it. But they said they would only offer an extension, one 30-day extension, and we were only able to demolish the house. We weren't able to finish the detached garage, which if that's what y'all want us to tear down, I need to ask to file another permit.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off just because Kate goes
I know. Sorry.
back and forth. I'm gonna give you my card.
Okay.
Reach out to me tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a conversation, and let's, because there's a lot of information here, obviously, and this first I hear of it. So if you can go ahead and approach, take this.
Okay. Thank
Reach out to me tomorrow, and we'll have a
Sorry,
conversation. You're fine.
Too nervous.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate you guys for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next up is Bill Stevens. Welcome.
My address is 9454 Royal Palm Avenue. I'm also a co-owner to 5106 Limestone. I'm essentially a life resident of Port Richey, having grown up with all my activities in Port Richey. At one time, before 10 years old, I could walk on mangroves from Deidre all the way down to the house on top of the mangroves. And they have since been converted to houses. The garage that she's speaking of was built in 1985. Your building office does not have those blueprints. We've requested them several times. Clay Shake was the building official. We've paid taxes on that detached garage since then. It was built with intent to go above by Alpha Builders. They are no longer in business. My proposal is to revise our plans on our new house to mirror the houses across the street. That is, raise the floor of the garage with a floating slab, which is what you're required to do today. Put a garage door on the front, like across the street, perhaps a second garage door, like across the street, and windows, like across the street, so we reflect the housing around us. How do I know this can be done? When I was 16 years old, I was hired in Gulf Harbors to help build those homes. The new owners often wanted a new window or door. What would I do? Go draw it, take a saw, cut it out, and knock it out, and finish it from there. When my kids were growing up, I did remodeling, such as out at Forest Lakes and on Ridge Road, in condominiums, and they had garages underneath. Oh, you want a stairwell going down? I cut out the slab floor with rebar and put in the stairwell for them. They're on it. In my own neighborhood, I helped build 4 houses because we were a neighborhood. That's what we did. We did not have assisted funding at that time. My neighbor, who is a brick mason, just did a similar remodel for Pasco County government on one of their utility buildings, where he took out a window, put in a new lintel to expand that to put in a door. Remodeling cement block homes is not unheard of. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is all the sign-ups I have. By show of hands, anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back. to comments from the city manager. Pass it to Mr. Copper for his comments.
Good evening, thank you. So tonight, on the agenda, we have our Utility and Public Works Director, Darrell Rose. So as I'm going through these, if you want to bring up his presentation, that would be appreciated. First, I was looking to get some direction from council quick. As you may be aware, the city historically has allowed pool filling waivers for people to come in and fill pools, and we discount some of the sewer off that, right? Well, it may surprise you to find out, maybe not, but there is no legislative support for that action the city's been taking. And so as we're going through looking at the different codes, we want to clean this up. And so to be able to do that, there's going to be two pieces that we need to do. One is on the ordinance side, we need to actually put in there the ability for the city to have a policy to allow that waiver. Then the second piece is actually adopting what that policy is. And I think one of the concerns I have is without having direction from council on this, staff is just kind of winging it. From the standpoint of making sure that the right thing gets done all the time, having a policy in place that's adopted by council that we can then, publicize to the public so they can see what's going on, what to expect, would be very helpful. So if it's okay, because only council can direct the city attorney to create the ordinances, if I get a consensus to allow the city attorney to go forward and create the changes to the ordinance, and we'll bring forward both the ordinance as well as the policy that we'd be asking later on.
Okay, so by consensus, is there any objections to that? Okay.
Anything else you would?
That's it.
That's good.
All I need. Thank you.
Along those same lines, as you may be aware, Holiday Mobile Home Park, which is there off of Limit Drive in the city, was tremendously damaged during the hurricanes. And we've still been going through this long process to address the damage that was done to those properties. And from the standpoint of the building official, all those mobile homes have been substantially damaged and need to be removed. However, there's not been a lot of cooperation, and being able to notice the owners of the mobile homes has been a little bit challenging. Unfortunately, the owner hasn't been forthcoming with ownership information as well. So what we'd like to do is actually take the owner of that property to court through a bill of discovery to effectively force them to provide us the information for the ownership of all those mobile homes. Again, something that the city attorney needs direction from the council, so a consensus for her to move forward with filing that bill of discovery so we can get that information so we can try to get this issue taken care of. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Myers if she would like to address any more.
I think you covered it pretty well. For kind of a background for mobile home parks, the law does not allow the city to, for instance, go to the mobile home park owner and say, hey, you're on notice, fix these. Hey, you're on notice, you need to demolish these. Hey, you're on notice, you have a code violation. We have to notice the owner of the structure. That's specific to mobile homes. There's preemptions in the law about what we can do. So we know who owns the park. They don't have any obligation to tell us who owns the individual units. It's been an ongoing issue even well before the storms with code violations. So we're at the point that letters were sent just to the addresses and, hey, please contact us. We think you're substantially damaged. Let's work on this. I don't believe anyone's responded. So the only thing we have come up with that I've thought of is to file a bill of discovery, which will cost the city some money to file the paperwork. It's a complaint in circuit court that will ask a court and explain to the court why we need this information, and hopefully have the court compel them to give us what information they do have so we can notice the actual owners and move this process forward.
Okay, so by consensus, is there any objection to that process? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The last thing before I turn it over to Mr. Rose, we've had a brief conversation about a plan moving forward on the dredging side, and what I was trying to do was get the county to come forward and talk to council regarding their MBSU program. That's not been too successful from my standpoint, and I think in the end it probably was going to be a futile thing anyways, because what they're doing is exactly what we can do, and we would be in total control over the dredging process within the city. And so I was trying to get through that so I could finally get to bringing forward a request to engage an engineering firm to start the work that needs to be done on dredging within the city. With that just taking forever, and I have hope that I'll still have individual meetings with myself and the county on this. I think that it's time to move forward with this. If we're going to do dredging, we need to start doing things today over the next several months so we can get in line to get a permit. And so I just wanted to make sure before I do all the paperwork to bring an engineering firm forward for your consideration at the next meeting that you're in line with that, and I have the ability to move forward.
Yep. So, like I said, is any objection to that?
I have some questions.
Sure.
So, what is the cost for this engineering project going to be?
Well, that's going to depend. The estimate I have, again, from a blind perspective, because one of the things that's going to dictate that final cost is which canals are we talking about? What are we going to be dredging? The outside number for the first part of it, so the study that is necessary to do this, the engineering firm said it was in the range of $90,000 to $120,000. I think when all is said and done, it's going to be at the lower end of that, because again, we're probably not in the beginning going to be doing all the canals, all 22 canals. So the first part's going to be a lower number. But again, I don't know, I'm not an engineer. So it could easily be 120,000 as well, but I think it's going to be at the lower end.
Do we have money in the budget right now for that?
Yeah, council during the budget process appropriated $200,000 to start this process.
Are there canals that are owned by us, the city, and canals that are owned by Pasco County? And if the ones owned by Pasco County are their canals, are they maintaining those canals like they just started between 19 and the backside of Old Post?
So there's three ownership types within the city of Canals. You have certain canals, very few that are actually owned entitled by the city. You have a number of canals, mostly along going into Miller's Bayou, that are owned and titled by the county. And then you have those that are in private ownership. So the private ownership are multiple owners. So the people along the canals are the owners of those.
Okay, so this engineering project or the engineering estimate that you're looking at seeking, is that going to include all those three things that you mentioned there, or is it just one?
So what my plans were on that is to get the engineer engaged. And so before they start going down that road, we have that meeting with the engineering firm. One, to kind of explain what the process is going to be so everyone knows what that process is, and understand what needs to be done. We figure out which canals and areas we want to dredge, and then that gives the direction to the engineering firm. They'll produce an SOW for us, a statement of work, and then we'll approve that final number and move forward.
So I'm sorry to be the one talking, but this is important to me. I've got a house on Miller Bayou. Plus, I know a lot of people that have houses with canals that are just mucked up. They're terrible. So is there any possibility that we have some additional funding or money that we can get from the state that's already in progress? Is there anything out there that you're aware of? Because I'm just coming up to speed now.
So there's always that possibility. And so again, as you start breaking down the different areas that may be dredged, right? You have potentially the county. They have $589 million that is going to be thrown out to different areas to be spent through the CDBGR program. That's a possibility. We have Army Corps of Engineers as we're trying to get, certain things associated with the storm surge as well as riverine flooding on the federal interest list, so we can start looking at that. There could be some state funding with that. In the end, our success with getting outside funding is going to be how we go about addressing the dredging. For example, there's a canal, Blue Point and Quist, that we have an outfall in. So we're gathering storm water through our system, outfalls through that, and out to the bayou. So that may be a candidate for some funding outside of the city's coffers to do that, because we have US 19 that leads into that, and so there may be some state funding there because of their outfall goes into our drainage system. But again, it's going to depend upon how we go about in putting this together. If we approach it from the standpoint of water quality, drainage, storm systems, these are all key ways to get state funding and potential federal funding. If we look at ways to try to manage storm surge and storm water that's going out to the Gulf, we may have some federal opportunities. So they're there. How we go about it is going to be important. But even beyond that, if we don't have the engineering done and started and do all the things necessary to get to that permit, we may have money, but we're not anywhere close to dredging. And so this piece gets us closer to that decision that y'all are going to have to make. How do we pay for this?
Yeah, and I'm going to, Dave, we were at a meeting the other day, and they were talking about dredging. Was that the meeting we were at together?
Was that the?
It was whatever that meeting was we went to, where there was the tables all the way around the room.
Tampa Bay. That was the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council.
Correct. Yeah, and they talked about dredging in that meeting, I believe, and they handed out some flyers. And unfortunately, it seemed like everybody from Hudson all the way down to Tampa was getting dredged. Right there was Port Richmond. There was nothing being done here. Did anybody know why? Or that? I mean, I was brand new into that, and I looked at that. I'm like, well, what happened to us?
It's because city controlled. And so that's part of this discussion with the county. The county has an MSBU program that's up and down the coast of Pasco. And so they're running that program from a county perspective. We have the opportunity to embark on that, join that program with them. And actually, this is kind of a segue into a comment I made. You mentioned that we can do that same thing ourselves. I think we absolutely can to facilitate and whatnot. However, their program, at least the way they've advertised it, is they gather all the information for the areas. They go through that. Once they decide what the cost is per resident based on their water frontage and all that, they actually get the service done. So the dredging happens, and then 10 years after that, they're paying for it. So they actually get the product up front. Now, if we did that in-house, I don't know if that would be the case. We would probably have to
do the same thing.
Where would that money come from, I guess, would be because they have a lot more.
Yeah, well, you mean the upfront money?
Yeah.
It's probably be a bond.
Float the bond.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it can be done. That's not a big deal.
Okay, so that would be one part of it to be. That's how we'd have to float a bond or something to do that.
I just don't want to see something happen and all of a sudden everybody else gets dredged and we're sitting here in the same pile of muck, And I'll bring this up because it's the hot topic of the moment. Mr. Koppler's moving on to a new position in Connecticut. And so he's going to be leaving here in 45 days. Where's the handoff of this? Because what we don't need to do is have this thing hit the shoebox again and not be brought up for a while. So where's that at?
Yeah, so obviously there'd be a lot of handoff going on between that project as well as others. So
that's after Daryl speaks, I'll bring that piece up.
Okay, so, awesome. We'll get
Thank you.
more on that.
One other question I had, there was a lot of work done measuring the canals, how deep, what kind of debris was in there, and potentially a engineering firm that's local, I can't recall the name, but was the intent to try to re-engage them and and dust off the old work and work from those documents, because a lot of that heavy lifting's already been done. I can't believe anything else is different other than there's probably more debris in these canals. The length and width and the previous depth from 5 or 6 years ago is evident in those documents. And I think you've shared. I mean, I've got them. A disc.
Oh, the Taylor Engineering.
Yeah.
I think the problem with those so old.
They're not that old.
So the answer to the first question is no. I wouldn't be bringing forward them. Second answer is I don't know if we can fully rely upon what they've done, but I think it's a basis and it should reduce the overall cost for what needs to be done. So I'm not going to say that it's going to save us a lot of money because I don't know. I haven't sat down with the engineering firm yet to say what's the cost going to be, because to them the bigger issue really is you got to define what the scope is going to be.
Scope of the work.
Right.
And then you go for the permit, right, to accommodate the work. And I believe from what I heard in the past, they were going to dredge 6 feet down, and maybe that doesn't need to be done.
Yeah.
Maybe, just remove the debris.
Right, and that's I think the difference in what they were looking at a different project altogether than what I think ultimately we're going to be doing. Okay. And so, there may be some pieces of what that engineering firm did that will be usable. They'll save time in what they have to do, but I still think they're going to be doing quite a bit of the update work that I believe we sent out. Do we send out what the county had sent me to council, or just to? Yeah. The document I thought I forwarded to you from the county to send out. I know it was going out to the Coastal Restoration Committee, but did that go out? I'll check on that.
I don't recall seeing it.
I'll check on that. I'll send that out. So the county provided me the study that is the basis for their dredging in both north and south of us.
That's in it, Gulf Harbor.
Yeah, and so that's effectively what the first step is going to be, is the creation of that study. It's going to have a lot of that information in it. So that's going to be the first step. I think that in my mind the two best engineering firms to go with is either who the county's using right now because they're engaged in and around us, or Stantec, which is a company that we've used on other projects. Both companies we'd be able to piggyback county contracts. Obviously, Pasco County with the engineer they're using, and Stantec because they're actually working right now with Fernando County and doing the same thing. And they've done a number of other cities in Pinellas County and Hillsborough as well. So I think it's a natural one of those two to be the choice. And again, my work between now and before we get the council packet out to all of you is to kind of look at both of those and make an evaluation which one would be best to bring forward.
So this $100,000 engineering exercise, that's just
required.
Kind of
It's an exercise.
A requirement, right? But it's the, I guess what's entailed in that is scoping that work.
Yeah.
And then
explain. I mean, it effectively is the document that will lead to the permits.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So back to by consensus, any objections or questions?
Quick question. What Dave brought up, previous document that was done 5 years ago, is there any, forgive me, I'm sorry, I get used to it. The thing that Dave brought up where 5 years ago we did some measurements and we know where the bottom is and we know how much stuff, it just may be more stuff. Isn't that something we could weave into this to lower our cost altogether by saying, hey, here's the stuff we have for this, so we don't have to go back out and remeasure the stick in the middle of every place?
Yeah, there's going, as I said, there's going to be some pieces of that work that is going to reduce the overall cost to what we're going to be doing. And I can't tell you today, because the bigger issue is going to be which canals are we going to do. That's going to drive more of the cost than the work that was done, because again, there was differing amounts of work done back then. There was there were a number of canals and channels that you were going to do, and then there were the rest. And so there was work done on all, but not to the same degree.
And the storms would change.
Yeah, I mean,
from 5
well,
years, the storms would change.
you're
some of that
5
stuff.
years further on, so more silt build up and all that. So yeah, the estimates of what the removal pieces are going to be different to a certain degree.
And I think they'll probably take that work, right, and they'll look at it and touch up. But at the end of the day, it's old. It may not be the same engineering firm, right? And so if you think about it from a new engineer coming in, are you going to use somebody else's work without exactly this? Just being real here, this you're probably
They do it all the time on surveys and all kinds of different things. So
they
it's not
start
like
with
it's
that,
not
right?
valid
And that's
information.
what this is, a survey of these canals.
Exactly.
The survey is
So
only good for 6 months.
What's that?
Surveys are only good for 6
A
months.
survey on a property?
Yep. If you go to a building department, they want a current survey when you go to pull permit.
Well, I don't know if I 100% agree with that because I've done all kinds of building before and thrown up a
Water,
survey.
things change, things shift, and that was so long ago. I doubt if they're going to be able to use. I mean, they may look
Yeah,
at it, but they're not going
water
to
would
use that.
shift a lot more than land.
I don't disagree. I just
Best
trying to-
case, they'll be able to use them as they were.
Right.
Doubt that.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, let's maintain that hope for sure. But hopefully that will help a little bit.
Thank you.
So, like I said, does anybody object?
No, we're good.
You good?
And I'll bring that forward for the next meeting.
Okay.
At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rose for his presentation and the 5 minutes that we're allotted.
I make it less. So,
Some production, I guess.
obviously, you guys know I'm the Utilities Public Works Director. I oversee all the water, wastewater, roads, water plants, parks, everything, beautification of the city. So, this is our organizational chart. So Adam is over our utilities. We have 6 guys. They do water and wastewater, so they do all your breaks, your locates, your service requests, any complaints that come in that's not smell or water quality related. We have our public works department. They're the ones that do all the parks, fill your potholes, change your signs, any complaints that come in with the beautification part of it. We have 1 guy dedicated to parks. He cleans and trashes out all the parks. So you'll see him going around, and he cuts them. He gets backed up. Other guys help out. We have 2 water plant operators. That's where your water quality complaints would come in for your smell, your discoloration. And they're out taking samples, make sure your water's safe to drink, put it out into the system. We have 2 stormwater guys. They do your MS4 reporting. They trash out the swales when they need it. They clean them, they cut them, they replace the pipes that need to be replaced. That's pretty much our crew in the back. All a bunch of hard workers. So.
That just for clarification, so the 2 stormwater people, those are new positions, right? Because I think we used to. I know we hired at least one of them.
Yeah, so 1 was for stormwater, 1 was for public works, because the stormwater person was under public works, so he had to help with the parks and stuff like that.
Right.
So in order for us to have a stormwater department, we had to branch off and make our own department.
So this year
Yep.
we dedicated 2 positions through the stormwater utility for.
Yeah, so I wanted to point that out because obviously we had a rate adjustment for stormwater, and this was the byproduct of that to keep some 2 people full time on those storm drains and all that to make sure that that's better functioning. So.
And we'll get into the work there. So we have a work order system. We have Black Mountain through utilities. We have iWorks through public works. Our utilities, these are all work orders based from October 2024 till when I made the PowerPoint 2 weeks ago. Utilities, we've done almost 1,600 work orders since October. That goes from meter box replacements, leaks, meter changeouts, new connections, which we get commercial properties or renters once irrigation, lift station work orders, sewer backups, all that stuff. So it's broke down there. And then our public works, we've done about 600 or so since iWorks has been around. This is tree trimming, potholes, trash that gets called out. People just dump around the city. We got to go pick that up. And any complaints you guys put on the system that goes through iWorks, that goes to Public Works. Public Works handles it. It comes to me, but some stuff goes to utilities, but most of it is Public Works. So,
Okay. Just an observation. I noticed in both of these charts, and I'm a chart guy, we got 29% miscellaneous in the first and 42% miscellaneous in the second. Those are the largest components. My suggestion would be to try to break that down more if possible.
so if I put the miscellaneous stuff in this, everything would be a lot smaller. So the miscellaneous stuff for utilities is your vacant meter status. Those are ones where we pulled the meter. We just want to make sure nobody is out there stealing water, or the meter's just been pulled. We don't want to make sure there's no leaks or nothing. We do those we do them twice a year, so every 6 months, and they're about 300 and something a piece, and they vary. The other miscellaneous is your backups, your just calls of people saying there's water in the road. We go investigate it. There's no leak there. That's kind of where your miscellaneous stuff falls into. Your more important stuff is what we have.
But I guess my concern is when the miscellaneous is the largest item, then maybe we need to break it down some more because there's something there. It's the majority of the items. It's just an observation.
We just have a lot of miscellaneous stuff, I guess.
Well, and the fact that you mentioned you had 1,600 whatever, those numbers also would be relevant in here. Yeah. If you're trying to manage the workload and you got 1,600 things, that's a lot of things, and it emphasizes, hey, maybe we don't have enough people doing this lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. It's just an observation, but appreciate it.
And you see the backflow testing on there. We do backflow testing within the city, and we have a guy dedicated to it when the backflow season comes, and we do generate revenue from that. So.
Is going to the 13% on the meter change? I'm sorry, the 10% meter change out? No.
The meter change out, it's the 13%.
Okay, 13%. I know we've been having some issues with meters specifically. So is that arbitrarily high because of the situation we've kind of been in?
Yeah. So that includes meters not registering. Ones we actually have to go manually read. We've changed those out so we don't have to manually go out and read them and take the time to go read them anymore. They come over through our census program like we're supposed to. We've changed out probably about 200 meters.
So I guess that should be shrank down a little bit going forward.
Going forward, it should be shrunk down, yes. Because we just added the new budget line item for the meter equipment. So we pretty much went through that already. So.
Shrunk down, I should say. Not shrunk.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be half that.
Reduced. That's even better. Thanks. Oh, go ahead.
I want to make sure that this may be not the best time for it, but I'm going to say it. Daryl, just from my perspective, because I've been running these roads, every single road that you run, like for the past month and a half, like meeting and greeting and all that stuff, we've gone from being a city of trash to being a city that's much cleaner. There's a lot more room that we have to go with that, though, and I've seen that and talked to the residents knocking on the doors. They're like, can we please clean up these trashy streets because it looks like a third world country? You've done a lot. Thank you. And, I mean, you've been a rock star thing. I really mean that. You have. We have a lot more to go. So if there's anything that we can do as a council to help facilitate that, because there's homeowners that want to get together out there on weekends and go out and pick up trash. How do we facilitate that? Obviously through a city manager is how we would do that. But I don't think, I have seen your guys picking up trash in the ditches by themselves. So thank you for that. I really mean that. We have a long way to go. And I think that if we're going to get resident recognition for taking care of this city, the first thing we can do is pick up the stinking trash.
Yeah.
All right.
We, so I think it was probably like 1,100 pounds of trash we picked up just out of the swales last year. Although that's not including the storm. So
it's an ongoing battle for sure.
Yes.
That is something that the CAC did for a while.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
CAC would go out and do that on the weekends and pick up.
Actually, we had a CAC cleanup down Bay Boulevard, and I think only 4 of us showed up, maybe 5. Yeah. But we cleaned up Bay Boulevard, and about a month later, the hurricane came and put it all right back out there. I couldn't hardly believe it. We went all the way down Bay Boulevard and all the way down Old Folks.
And used to hit the parks and yeah. So that was a good thing.
Matt, with your
I think that's a
experience-
great idea. I think we probably need to kick that off again as a CAC item to maybe try to get
Matt, with your experience, have you ever dealt with adopt a highway or adopt a road or any of those things before? Because I mean, there's not that many roads,
Right.
And if you got like a business or Ocean Honda say, okay, we'll get this road, or whatever other business will get this road, that would be something that we wouldn't have to that would be their responsibility to go out and take care of it. Is that possible, Matt? How do you initiate that? How do you get legs on that?
We just start putting it together and putting it out to the public to come in and adopt it. We just have to identify the roads and put them out there.
Is everybody on council for that? I mean, I think that's something we should start almost immediately.
Yeah. So in other words, you put out Port Richey has an adopt a road program. Any partakers that want to do that. So Ocean Honda would come up, for example, and pick Bay Boulevard, and they would be policing the Bay Boulevard on a monthly basis, I guess, right? Send some of their crew from their employees wanting to volunteer and do that.
Yeah, you'd have to have signage that identifies that, and with that, you usually have requirements for the people that want to do that adoption.
Right.
That they do have to, for a 12-month period, they have to once a month go out and do some type of.
Now, is there a fee? Do they pay a fee to do that for the sign, or is that something the city sponsors because they're going to clean it up?
Typically, the
It's
cities will do
Okay.
that. Yeah.
And then the city provides, from what I've read about it, the city provides the trash bags, picker upper, the maybe vests. I mean, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I mean, you really got to look into all the because there's details.
I think
I'd like to make that motion.
Yeah, by consensus, is there any objections to looking at that?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to look at it. I want to do it.
Well, yeah, look into it first. See what, and then we got to adopt something, right? I mean,
We make an official policy.
What's that?
you got a policy.
You can't just
We
do
need
it.
to need to do the
Nancy's
research.
like, slow down,
Yeah,
Chris. I'm like, no, let's get
No, I'm going to be your worst enemy right now. You
All
have to
right, all
slow it down, look into it, figure out. I'm sitting here worrying about liability. Boom, we're putting people on the road.
I mean, there's 1,000 communities nationwide that
I know
have to pick
that.
up the road,
Right.
so
I
we can't
understand.
be automatically
No.
saying there's going to be a problem in Harbor High.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah,
But we need to understand that. We need to say there might be liability here. Here's our exposure. Or do you as a council want to do that?
I just don't
We'll
want
bring
to.
it back to you and give you that.
Give me 1
information.
second, please, Nancy. I just don't want to constantly stonewall things that need to get legs on them, get going because of liability purposes. Because everybody's got liability every day.
That's going to be your decision.
Yeah, no,
So once we bring you the information.
Bright yellow jackets we need to get for volunteers when they're working on side roads.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Or they
Something like that.
No, we could get them. They can come and check them out from the city and return them on Monday.
Right.
And Matt says he's
exactly.
got experience doing this, so I think we'd get some legs on this thing.
I think it can move fairly quickly. We just also got to do due diligence. So.
But to that point, I think what she's talking about is addressing. All right, you're going to sign up for this road, and you got to sign the paperwork to indicate, hey, all bets are off. If you guys get hurt out there, it's on you. Realize that you're taking the risk upon you, not the city. Right? They're not forcing you to do this.
Any objections?
No, I think that's a great idea.
So if I can just understand. So when we come up with this fantastic idea, and Nancy, please understand we're getting to know each other, so this would be one of those opportunities.
Absolutely.
So we come up with this great idea. We're like, well, we're going to look into it. Where does that go? What file cabinet does that in? We're going to look into it. What does I want to know? Because if we're going to get in here and we're going to get something done, we need to actually put legs on these things and get them to run.
Right.
We can't say we're going to look into it and then. And I brought it up before. We have a new city manager, and it's like in the bottom of the desk drawer. It's not. We're not looking into anything. It was a thought or an idea that we sat here and we kind of wasted each other's time to
Right. So one way we track that obviously is old business. So obviously we've gave them marching orders to go forth and put a policy together, whatever. We should at some point in the future they would come back to us with that recommendation and we move on. So this is the putting the shoes on so that we can start to walk process.
Okay.
So, but they didn't get dropped. I mean, this is, we by consensus, we just directed staff to move forward with that. Sal, you have a comment?
Yeah, there's already language about Adopt a Tree and Adopt a Road program on the city website.
Might be able to leverage
So
that.
what I think we need to do is just review the agreement and the guidelines that's already in there. Have Nancy look at it because it's been there for a very long, for a while. So there is language already written. So I think what we can do is just go ahead and review that, see if there's anything needs to be updated, and then move forward with it. So
And then
there's
maybe-
language already on the website.
Yeah.
And then maybe advertise a little bit about that. Say, hey, the city's looking for businesses that'll step up and adopt a road, adopt a tree, or whatever. Yeah. And I think CAC would be a good place to park some of that effort. They could contact businesses. We can contact businesses. They can contact. We have a whole list of business licenses that we could send that out in the mailer too. So. Great idea.
Okay. Where were we?
We're in the presentation.
Presentation. Sorry, we got off track there a little bit.
Page 4.
Yeah, we're back. So this is just something our water plant operators do. So we take 62 samples quarterly. So this is just test for any bacteria in the water. So when you guys hear that, you guys hear do scuttlebutt that our water is not safe. It is safe. Otherwise, we would let everybody know that it's not safe. The samples get sent off to Pasco, tested, and it's done throughout the city in random spots. So it's not just done in one spot and that's it. It's done up north, south, east, and west. So we have the interconnects with Newport Richey. We've actually done really well. We haven't purchased any water yet since the storms. So we've been pretty self-sufficient with ourselves. So it's all our water. Our water quality calls are low, which is good. So we've only had 9 of those. So water plant guys been doing pretty good. As you can see, what we've upgraded, what we've done at the plant this year, keep it running. Hopefully, this grant goes through with the new water plant. So get everything brand new back there.
Okay. Yep. To the fact that the water quality is good, I've got a friend of mine. I was over at his house, and he says, I haven't been changing my filters often because I haven't had to. In the past, he'd put a new filter on and be black in a day, and now he's gone a month, and he showed it to me, and it looks pretty good. So to that end, you are getting some benefit and some traction there, cleaning the water up. I appreciate that.
A majority of our water complaints are, as you know, a lot of these houses are older. So they have galvanized lines going from the meter box to the house. Any air, it rattles that stuff loose. They have filters. It's going to turn their filters red just because of that galvanized and that corrosion inside the pipe.
Right.
Our stuff from the main to the meter is not. We're in the middle of changing that out. That's what our lead and copper program's for. But just so you guys are aware of that as well when the red water complaints come in. Most of the time it's do what's on the customer side.
And we've added some auto flushers and
Correct.
And
yeah, we've added
some stuff at the end of the line we've
3 of
looped
them.
in.
Yeah, we've added 3 of them. We've tied some lines in, so there's not a lot of stagnant water just sitting there.
Right. Got a couple other items. Do we add fluoride in our water?
No.
Okay, good. And then this period of inspection that you got here, what was the length of time this was? The 62, was this in the since the fiscal year or just from January to now?
Yeah, so the water plant season starts in January, and it goes all the way to December 31st. Every month or every year, we have to take certain type of samples every quarter. Our nitrates and nitrites come at the end of the year.
Okay.
We have our THMs that we have to sample for.
And the other thing, I've looked on our website and I cannot find any current water reports out there. Is that?
We are working on our CCR right now.
Okay, I think the last I saw was 2023.
Yep.
So
we're working on 2024 right now.
Okay.
Yep. That's due June.
Okay.
So and our percentage is still down for water loss, so we're good. Everything's good with that.
All right.
We're good.
Thank you.
Next one. This is just a little fact sheet, what we did for Helene and Milton. So we picked up 2,500 cubic yards of home debris. Just city workers alone, that's not including the companies that were in here. That's just us as city workers alone. And then we did about 1,000 of brush, not including our monthly that we do. This was just from Milton. And then we had our 13 lift stations go down due to Helene. They're all back up and running and repaired. So everything's good to go.
Can I ask you a question, Daryl?
Go ahead.
I noticed outside of my house in Harbor Point there, right after the flood, they were there right away. When the lift station panel gets zapped because salt water encases the whole thing, does it quit pumping poop?
Yeah,
it does. So right then, we're all flushing our toilets, and it's just slowly rising. You're trying to beat it to the top. Correct. By getting it fixed. Is there a way to bypass that and just make it pump?
Yeah. So each one has generator receptacles on the side of them.
Okay.
But they all got fried as well. So the whole station. So even us bringing a portable generator there, plugging it in.
So what did you do to keep ahead of the stuff?
So what we did is we sucked all the stations from that was highest up. Everything on. I'll use the west side for example because that's where everything was. Everything pumps to Bay Boulevard. So what I did was we pumped everything to the floor, dumped it all in Bay because Bay Boulevard was still working. All the other stations were fried. So once we got them all pumped down to the floor, I was able to use our system as a holding tank for 12 hours. Then, so everybody can go home, rest. After those 12 hours hit, we came back in the next day, pumped it all back down. Then we had 12 hours again. So during the normal hours, during those 12 hours, we were able to replace some parts to get some of these, at least one pump working on hand. So I had guys just every morning they would come in, they'd flip it on hand, pump it to the floor, and keep going, and then until we're able to replace them all.
I mean, I just got to say, we are so blessed to have you at that time in that position because it could have been a lot worse. You'd have stuff in the streets, So thank you so much for that. I mean that.
We got funding for for lift stations.
We received funding for three lift station generators, I believe, right? 3 generator lift stations. Four. We have 4. The unfortunate piece, though, is that they're not being elevated. So
that was my next question.
Yeah, and so we have a request in through appropriations at state to actually do an elevation of 3 lift stations.
$1 million.
Yeah, we may be able to get 4 done for that, but 3 definitely. We get that funding. We also have so we're flooding the court on this one. So we have that in. We're making a request through FEMA to do the same thing. We also have a request. One of the requests into Army Corps of Engineers is to lift a number of the lift stations out of the flood as well. So we're trying to cover this from as many different directions, and hopefully get lucky in one of them.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Daryl.
Yep. Thank you. You're good. This is the last one. This is just each department where we want to, little projects where we want to head this upcoming year. So, but that's the end of it, you guys.
Real quick, just give an update because although we're still through all the loan documents and grant for the water treatment plant, the engineering firm is moving forward with the plant design.
Yes. So
and so if you just give an update where that stands.
So I met with them last week. I'm getting them plans over for the electrical for the water plant. They're bringing in a pilot machine, which is going to run 22 gallons a minute for 3 months, every day, all day. And what that's going to do is give them what type of treatment we need. So it's going to run through this big pilot system, pump out, and that's how the engineers are going to get all the design. So it's part of the design process. They are dropping that off
basically a
think within the
miniature
next month.
miniature version
Water-
of what
water plant.
ultimately we're going to get.
Oh,
Many water.
that's exciting.
So they are moving forward with it. I think we got a meeting. They sent out a request, so they want to have a meeting. I think like next week or something. Yeah. So
No more bagging iron. Hopefully.
we'll still have the filters back there for the iron, but they won't have to go through the flushing process anymore. 'Cause we're not going to be able to get rid of the iron. That's what's being pumped. But we won't have to put it through the bags anymore. The RO system. It almost be 99.9% pure. So.
Thank you, Darren.
Good job. Thank you.
Turn back over to you.
The last item, I wanted, obviously I am going to be leaving now in less than 45 days. I want to get you thinking about the process to fill the position, because there's things that we can start working on in terms of notifying search firms, working on potentially getting interim if you so desire, but we need direction.
So I was going to suggest that we amend the agenda to put at the end of the council business, item number 7 would be city manager transition discussion, and then we would change discussion of business to item number 8. I have a motion.
That's my motion.
Motion for the second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Put the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
That's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thanks, sir. Okay, next up is comments from boards, committees. Other than mine, is there any other board committees? Oh, I didn't see your other. Carl, welcome.
It wasn't a sign up.
I didn't have a sign up, but
I know. Carl Roth, 8031 Island Drive. I'm here tonight on behalf of the 2125 Resiliency and Restoration Committee. This is our first update. We've been making progress after a few initial teething pains. Tonight we want to submit a couple of recommendations that we have. One of the topics that we've been dealing with over several meetings was around evacuation routes for residents and emergency responders, giving them access. This is viewed as a priority from a safety perspective. And two areas that we looked at was Bay Boulevard, primarily east of Old Post Road, and Sunset Boulevard on the south side of the Cody. Sunset Boulevard, road elevations, drainage, and proximity to the Cody River were discussed in an attempt to develop some workable solutions. For the committee's purposes, an elevation increase to the road of 1 foot 8 inches to minimize effects of blue sky flooding, address nominal Gulf wind influences, and handle estimated sea level changes to 2040 framed our discourse. Given the significant grade change required, adverse impacts to residential driveway access, and close proximity of the road to some homes, the committee realized that it did not have the expertise to develop what we believed were practical solutions. In other meetings, we had familiarized ourselves with the Cody River and that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers were responsible for it. Additionally, we learned they have initiatives to engineer with nature future projects versus their traditional gray-only approaches used in the past. Consequently, the committee is recommending to council that the city reach out to the Jacksonville District for their assistance on how the city can be better protected from the river and Gulf for the future. We believe that they will have the expertise to propose solutions that address our flooding concerns and maintain the federal waterways in the most pragmatic way possible. This was a lot of back and forth on our part. We think that leveraging the Army Corps because of the federal channel makes sense to offset some costs. It's just a matter of going forward. But as we got into looking at everything on the roads, when it involved raising it up, that was a problem that created more problems and created other problems. So we came out of our wheelhouse pretty quick. So hence that recommendation going forward, and then we can get them engaged. As far as the Bay Boulevard, we're supposed to be doing some resurfacing on that. So we just tabled that aspect of any of our future work on the roadside, at least at this point in time. The second area was to provide a sea level rise planning table that could be used by the city to consider the long-term sustained effects on sea level rise on real property, quality of life, and perhaps more importantly, to sustain economic growth. The state of Florida is advising its communities to utilize this type of information for evaluating any future infrastructure and capital investments. So if the city is looking to raise lift stations, if the city is looking to buy fire trucks, if the city is trying to do anything from a capital program standpoint, and that program is supposed to last for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we should be considering this in our decision-making process. So I'd ask Ms. McDonough to provide some copies. Do we have those?
Yes, I didn't pass them out. I didn't know if you guys wanted to enter them into the record before I pass them out, or if it's okay if I just pass them out.
Yeah. Can we get a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Okay. Second. Get a motion second. Any further discussion? Public comment? Seeing none, bring the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Back in 2020, when we framed to council the needs to move forward in this area, we had provided some information that talked about how the city has evolved over time. And basically, some of the early parts of the city were developed in about 1925. And over the years, mostly in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, additional growth had taken place. So on page 2, we had put together a document that kind of showed if a development like Harbor Point was put in the 90s, they've seen about, we estimated, 3.8 inches of sea level rise since that time. If you look at the area south of the river on Sunset Boulevard in the 1925, about 8.5 inches was what we estimated at that time. That was based on information that we got from St. Petersburg that had the longest history of data, so we put this together. So 5 years ago, we knew something, but we know a little bit more today. So page 3 is a revised look at that based on what we know today. And generally, what is being discussed is that sea level rise is occurring at a greater rate, a faster rate, an increasing rate than it has in the past. So what we did was we brought that forward to 2024, and like Harbor Point, we're showing almost 6 inches rise has occurred since the 90s versus what we had estimated. So on the sheet, we underestimated in 2020 anywhere from about 1 inch to 3.5 inches. So just for context for the council. So we wanted to provide you that. But more importantly, Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council has put together information. They retained a group that's called the Tampa Bay Climate Science Advisory Panel. It's made up of people from University of South Florida, Tampa Bay Regional Planning, a lot of the governmental entities. So I think their intent was to say, we need to put something together for the Tampa Bay region, so if Port Richey does do something, that they don't mess up with New Port Richey. So we all look at it the same way. Because you have more money in Port Richey means you can build a Taj Mahal. They didn't want that to happen. So their objective here was to have the communities put something in place that they could use for these capital projects, so on and so forth. So what we did was put together something, and Tampa Bay, the Planning Council, they start everything in the year 2000. That's when they said, okay, that's 0. So from 2000 on, that translates to X amount of millimeters or inches or whatever metric you want to be able to use. So this table here, they looked at 3 different scenarios, a low scenario, a middle scenario, and a high scenario. They're recommending everybody use the intermediate scenario, which is what we articulated here. So the other thing is that St. Petersburg formed the basis. However, Clearwater is a nearer station to us, and it's on the coast. They've done a substantial amount of effort. We've hired a new gentleman here. We've all done resiliency from the CRA. And basically, Clearwater's numbers are more aggressive than St. Petersburg's numbers. So, for example, St. Petersburg since 1947 has been increasing about 3 point some millimeters a year. Clearwater, contraire, has been increasing about 4.4 millimeters per year. So what we did in this table was we leveraged Clearwater's information as our basis because of that difference. And we're on the coast versus St. Petersburg in the Bay. And water levels are not the same everywhere, no matter what you think. But we won't go into that today. So for our purposes, leveraging Clearwater, starting out at 0 in 2000, by 2070, which was our target on the committee, the recommendations are to consider that we could see as much as 2.6 feet more water over sea level by that time. And what we did is we put it down to 2024 and then breaking it forward every 10 years. The numbers that Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council is suggesting are the ones on 2030, 40, 50, 60, and 70. And what we did on this table is to kind of show you the change that's occurring from an increasing level over the years. So historically was the 4.38, most recently 8.9, and then it increases as you can see. Now, the big challenge that folks have, and I received counsel on this, is that, okay, so sea level is this. Well, what does that mean to my finished floor elevation is 10 feet, okay? So where's sea level, all right? So mean sea level is 0, okay? Your surveyor marks are a little bit higher than that. So 0 from a surveying standpoint is about 0.15 inches above that, all right? So when you're looking at an elevation of a lift station or a water station, you need to do that conversion. So the difference is 0.15. That's on here. I put it on the table. So the other main thing here that I wanted to show is that mean high water is 3.18. So what that means is that on a normal high tide, we see about 1.4 feet of flooding generally occurring, okay? So that happens as a matter of course. So when people talk about Sunset Boulevard, seeing flooding on a blue sky day, that's what we're talking about. So we wanted to provide this to you as a reference point for your efforts and things that you do going forward. It's harmonized with Tampa Bay Regional Planning, and the folks that put it together in an attempt to maintain consistency of the different communities. So if you talk to any of your counterparts in Manatee County, Hillsborough, Pinellas, they're all working off the same sheet of music, albeit a little bit different. So, any questions?
Now, why is the 0.15 survey, why do they do that?
Because sea level and elevations are all based, and the elevations are going to change here in the next couple of years because there's going to be a new datum established. But for our purposes, North American Vertical Datum 1988 is what's being used, and that's the 0. So it's a shell that's drawn everywhere, and it just so happens where we are here with our mean sea level at 1.64, NAVD 0 is at 1.79, so it's 0.15 difference. If you talk to your counterpart in Clearwater, it's going to be a little different.
Okay.
Tampa, it's going to be a little bit, but for us, based on what NOAA says is mean sea level and what NAVD is, that's our delta here for practical purposes. It's a nit, but it's something important.
Yeah.
The other thing here that we'll say is that our numbers, you're going to see a jump from 2024 to 2030. And the reason you see that is that those are actuals, our best guess up to now. But it jumps to 0.88 because that's what Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council says you should consider, all right? So you've got about 4 inches of headroom difference on that, okay, as far as where you are versus what they're saying. But that'll harmonize with them. So if it doesn't change at any different rate, we're a little ahead of the game. You only got about that much headroom. Okay. Cool. Very good. All right, we'll continue to make progress on our end.
Thank you. Appreciate all your hard work, Carl. and the committee as well, actually. So, I said, appreciate your hard work and the committee. You guys do good work. Appreciate you. So, any other boards committees? So, I give an update on the Centennial. We met today. Obviously, we just had our fishing tournament. I want to tell just a quick story about that. We had 13 total teams, so it was a really good event. But there was a really neat story that I wanted to share. So, there was an individual that actually won the tournament, and the top prize was $1,000. And his name was Nick Nappy. It was a funny story too as he started the day. But the reason he actually came to the captain's meeting the night before the fishing tournament, showed up on a whim because his dog had cancer and he had to have a surgery to remove something in the chest or whatever. And so he joined the tournament to hopefully get defray those costs because it was going to be like $700, $800 to do that. So he joined the tournament that evening. The next day in the tournament, his first fish was just a real little bitty redfish, right? And he's probably thinking, "Wow, this is not going to be a good day, right?" But he ended up catching the biggest fish of the tournament, 33.5 inches redfish, and so he ended up winning that tournament. So a really good story. He got his $1,000 or so to take care of his dog. So that was a really great story. I'm sure. And as far as the committee, obviously we've got other events coming up. You've probably seen the signs with the car show being well advertised. Hopefully that's going to, we move that to the 10th of May. So hopefully that's going to be a really good event. We did end up canceling the golf scramble. There was not enough interest in that, so we've canceled that. And just a note, we're still well within our budget. We're still planning the rest of the events. Obviously, May is going to be really busy and coming up to the actual Centennial event in the park. Still working through that. But we do have T-shirts. If I could have my wife stand, she's got one of the T-shirts on. Just to show everybody. So front, see a Port Richey Centennial logo, and on the back, spin around. Oh, on the back it has the. Here we go. On the back it has all our sponsors and then council members and committee members. So those are $15 and are available in various sizes. So if you're interested in one of those, please contact Sal or Ashley on the administration side. We also have challenge coins. Now, at the Mayor's Ball event, the challenge coins will be free with your seat at the table. But if you aren't going to that, you can purchase those for $10. So, and they're very nice challenge coins. Be a good souvenir for the Centennial. So that's all I had from the Centennial. Next up is our consent agenda. I need a motion and or discussion.
Motion to approve consent agenda for April 22nd. Second.
I get Lisa with the second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, bring that for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, council business. Item number 2, surplus of impounded vehicles. I will pass it to Mr. Coppler for introduction.
Yes, it looks like we're catching up on getting rid of the surplus impounded vehicles. Second time in a row, I think. Request is to surplus 10 impounded vehicles that have been stored in the impound lot of the police department for 90 days or more. The registered owners were sent notifications via registered mail and have not responded to retrieve their vehicles. Port Richey Police Department will send these vehicles to the Royal Auction Group, as is our standard practice. RAG will auction these vehicles through their standard process.
Okay. Open up for motion or discussion.
Motion to approve surplus of the impounded vehicles.
Second.
Have motion second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Dave?
I noticed that these were going to Zephyr Hills. I thought they were supposed to go down to St. Pete. Is that the case?
They're listed to go to Zephyr Hills.
Chief, your mic.
I'm sorry.
Hey, sorry.
It's my understanding that's where they've been going to is Zephyr Hills.
Okay. I know when they initially brought this forward, I thought St. Pete was the area. Also, and I can have this discussion offline, I've got an idea for a better format that's going to show us how long these things have aged and what we've accrued fees and whether we've got any gain or loss on these things. So it's maybe something to track later on, but we can talk that offline because I want to have a meeting.
Okay. Any discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is item number 3, discussion of reimbursement of legal fees requested by mayor. Pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
So in an effort to speed this meeting along, I'm going to actually turn it over to the city attorney.
Okay. Nancy?
Right. Thank you. Everyone should have received a memo. Okay, good. Kind of outlining what the request is and what the process is moving forward. There is, it's not the first time this has happened. There is case law and attorney general opinions out there that address this issue. And as I've outlined in the memo, the money spent in attorney's fees in defense of a complaint to the Commission on Ethics is something that the mayor is entitled to reimbursement if the council determines that the underlying complaint was due to, number one, he was doing the performance of his official duties and he was serving a public purpose while doing that. So the memo explains what those allegations were. I think you all are familiar with them anyway. But if you feel that the allegations that were made in the ethics complaint arise from the mayor's official duties and he was serving a public purpose due to the fact that the ethics challenge failed, he is entitled to reimbursement of the amounts that's been requested if you find those two things. I would recommend, as I mentioned in my memo, if someone is to make a motion, to please say specifically that you are finding that, make those findings. And I can answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, and actually, before I open up the floor, I just wanted to add, so I'll say I'll be abstaining from this vote, and I'll need to file a form, I think, with the clerk, correct? I do want to apologize to everyone, the public. It's very unfortunate that I was put through this. I do my job and take my job very seriously, and I do it with the utmost of integrity. And unfortunately, others didn't believe that, and so they embarked on this journey. So I want to apologize first and foremost that I even have to come to ask for this. But as you know, we don't get paid a whole lot up here, and I never would imagine in a million years that taking this position and working hard for the public, for the city, that something like this would happen. So I would definitely not expect to be exposed to any legal fees out of my own pocket. And with that, I'll open the floor. I do have some other documentation if we want to have a discussion. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Before we move on, I did feel that I was going to talk about the ethics complaint reimbursement first, and then we have the recall, which is a different conversation. So this will just be for the attorney's fees for the ethics complaint, which totaled $2,192.50. Yes.
Chris?
Discussion?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I sit on multiple boards, and all those boards that we sit on, from time to time, things can get a little bit dicey. Okay. You can get into places that hurt people's feelings. You know, you can say things that people are like, well, I'm going to sue you, and crazy stuff like this happens all the time. Sometimes you find people on some of those boards, and those people have these vendettas to come after you. I mean, sometimes I've felt in fear of literally of harm to my family because of decisions we made on those boards. And I'm just the new guy, so help me out understand this, okay? Why in the world would we not defend the mayor when he's attacked from the outside in a situation like he was? I'm not done. And if we don't have something in place to do that, why wouldn't the opposing party have to pay the fees? Why do we, the citizens of our city, if they've been found to be not true, in other words, he was found blameless in this, why are we foot the bill?
The law allows the mayor to go after the people that allege the ethics complaints against him. I think the standard is for him to have been successful. I don't have the law in front of me, but it's a high standard he would have to meet, like very liable standards, slander standards. So it's a hard fight to fight, but he could have done that. The city doesn't have that right per law. The mayor would have. And there's a time frame, and that time frame's passed, so he can't do that.
I don't think he would waste his time doing that, but and we haven't seen this.
Yeah.
How many times has this happened in the city?
I know one other time before I was here. But it happened. It happens. It's not super common in all the other cities that we represent, but it does happen.
Do we have a form of some kind, like some kind of an internal arbitration thing that we could actually go to versus the legal fees that this thing costs?
I've never been asked that question, but so it arises because someone's filed a complaint with the Commission on Ethics. So it's out of the city's hands. So someone felt that he did something inappropriate. They filed a complaint with the Commission on Ethics, which is a whole separate entity. They do a review of it. They determine there was probable cause just based on the allegations to investigate. So then they investigated. And then ultimately, as you know, they found that what he did, they didn't feel violated any of the ethics laws, but they went with that investigation. So the mayor could have sat there and done nothing and not and incurred attorney's fees. Personally, I'm glad that he did what he did, because if they found something more than they did, he would want someone there on his behalf.
Did you get any kind of an apology from anybody on this at all?
No. There's no requirement of that.
It's not even the requirement. It's just the fact that the guy had to defend his name. His name was slandered and dragged through the papers and everything else, and it was not valid. So.
And I think obviously a person that's made a complaint could choose to do that should they want to. There's no requirement that they do that. And I unfortunately think that what the mayor's left with is he can say there was nothing found and ask for his fees. If you guys feel that those two prongs are met.
I make a motion that regarding the ethics complaint, that what he was accused of and ended up being not a fact, that it was during an official duty and serving a public purpose.
Okay. Recommend a reimbursement of $2,190.50.
So I recommend the reimbursement of $2,192.50 because it was all of those complaints were during an official duty on the dais serving a public purpose.
Second. Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment?
Oh, I've got a discussion.
1 second.
What about the rest of it?
We're going to
cut that next.
Okay, thanks.
We're not doing it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back for a vote. Again, I will be abstaining from this vote. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so the second part of this is the money spent by the mayor in attorney's fees related to his recall. Those total $1,137.50. Is that right? Okay, $1,137.50. Well, let's make that reading fast. I want to make sure.
I thought it was 1,300.
I might be reading the wrong line. Hold on.
There was a item in there where he billed it as recall, but it was actually ethics, and so as he pointed that out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the one that was built incorrectly, we put in the other total.
And the
Yes.
recall was actually $25 an hour cheaper, so it actually was a good
Okay.
deal.
So the amount is $1,137.50. So the law on reimbursement for attorney's fees for a recall is not as clear as it is for defending yourself in front of the Commission on Ethics, because the recall, it started. We know it was announced it was going to happen. They collected petitions. The first step in that process is petitions are submitted to the clerk, which then submits them to the supervisor of elections. And at that point, this recall failed because they did not have enough signatures. Now, within that time, the mayor, of course, had his attorney connected to the other issues going on. Also, the attorney, and you received a copy of this, started to draft a complaint to file on the mayor's behalf. If the recall were to pass that first stage, they were going to challenge it in circuit court as a non-sufficient petition. So he was going to initiate litigation. It's very clear, had that litigation been initiated and he had been successful, he would be entitled to fees based on those same two criteria that we just talked about for the ethics complaints. It's not clear, because there was no litigation, whether he is entitled to the fees based on those two prongs. I will tell you, within my office alone, we have different opinions. All it says is that it's a possibility. It's out there. So it's not as clear. I can't clearly tell you absolutely like I can for the Commission on Ethics attorney's fees.
Now that hasn't happened here before that I know of, that part for a recall. But a recall was attempted,
Yes.
and he did have to do something to defend himself. There weren't enough valid signatures, so it didn't go further. Had there been enough valid signatures, he would have had 5 days to respond, which he would have, if he was smart, needed an attorney to be involved in that process. And then it would have gone to a second round of petitions. It never got that far because there were not enough valid signatures to start with. But once again, the attempt was announced. It happened. It failed. He still had to be ready in order to defend himself within 5 days had that gone through. So I don't know if everybody's aware of that whole process, but it's complicated. And yes, when it got to that point, he would have had to have done something. And if it was me in that position, I would have had an attorney.
Yeah, and I will give a little more color here. on that, and I've got a printout of an email. So this was not in the packet because this was a personal conversation with my attorney, and so I forwarded this on to Nancy. And I was going to talk to her a little bit. Do I need to get motion acceptance record or something? Okay? Yeah, can I get a motion acceptance into the record? Please email.
Motion accept.
Okay, I got a motion from you.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? Any public comment? Seeing I put to a vote, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I can vote on this, I guess, right?
But just don't.
Oh, okay. I'll stay for this as well.
Just
Okay.
You're
Opposed?
a witness here.
Okay.
What are we looking at there?
So hold tight to this for a second. I'm going to reference this in a minute. So in Nancy's opinion, again, like she said, her office had conflicting points of view, and I think they could see it argued either way.
Yeah.
So what I would like to point out, and I'm going to pull up, and she referenced this Supreme Court opinion of Patricia Thornburg versus City of Fort Walton Beach. And in that opinion, I'll spare you the details of all of that, but I want to get down to where they talk about their opinion. And it says, and so you'll see there's two parts to this, and one is statute, right, that requires case to be submitted in court and fought out that way, and you've got common law. Okay, and so this reference to the common law, and I think that's where the actual ethics portion is that's what allows me to be reimbursed there. I argue here as well that this is the same thing, and based on the same Supreme Court opinion, it states Florida courts have long recognized that public officials are entitled to legal representation at public expense to defend themselves against litigation arising from the performance of their official duties while serving a public purpose. Several citings in there. The purpose of this common law rule is to avoid the chilling effect that a denial of representation might have on public officials in performing their duties properly and diligently. This entitlement to attorney's fees arises independent of statute, ordinance, or charter. For public officials to be entitled to representation at public expense, the litigation must, 1, arise out of or in connection with the performance of their official duties, and 2, serve a public purpose. Again, just reiterating that in the case. As you read further down in the case, as it describes their case, it also states, it does have a decided interest, however, in protecting its officers from untimely and illegal recall petitions. And this is referencing the action that was being taken, that basically the government and public does have a decided interest in that process.
What do they mean by illegal?
Illegal recall.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, I'll get to that. So that was made school for.
All right.
And so as we go down, it also says if a recall petition is commenced, and I think this is key language in the opinion. If a recall petition is commenced, the public has an interest and the city has a responsibility to ensure that the recall committee follows the proper procedures. For example, that the recall petition is facially correct. Officials should not have to incur personal expenses to ensure that a recall committee follows the proper procedures. Okay? And so that's all I'll highlight there. I've got the whole thing if we want to look more, but I think the important part of this this opinion, again, what I would argue, if a recall petition is commenced, now if you pull up Florida recall statute, let me just refer to that real quick. It's 316.
So you're saying part of the important part of that is that the city had to, once it started the move, the city had to make sure everything was correct.
Right. This is where I'm going to get my email in just a second here. So Florida recall statute, give me just a second. So the Florida recall statute, 100.361. In the process, there's notice that comes to the city that they're doing the recall. As you go down, and it's 100.361. Let's see. F, which is filing of signed petitions. All signed petition forms shall be filed at the same time, no later than 30 days after the date on which the first signature is obtained on a petition. The person designated as chair of the committee shall file the signed petition forms with the auditor or clerk of the municipality or charter county or his or her equivalent, hereinafter referred to as clerk. The petition may not be amended after it is filed with the clerk. So my argument is, based on the opinion, as they were gathering all the signatures, right, the process really hasn't commenced at that point. Once they file with the city clerk, that process commences. And so, from my perspective, and that's why I'm going to refer to the email to my attorney, and I'll read that for the record. Hi, Mark. As per our conversation, I would like for you to petition the court to issue an injunctive relief to stop the recall process, review the committee's recall petition as to its legal sufficiency, as well as its devoid of facts, and to have it thrown out based on the opinion AGO 75-119, grounds for recall election, and the case law referenced within. 276 signatures were submitted for verification on 9/10/24 and are currently being verified by the Supervisor of Elections Office. I anticipate that they will achieve the 250 necessary and would like for you to move forward on this as soon as possible. And I want to be clear here. I could have waited and gone through the process. I was confident the process would have been defunct in the end. However, there was a large campaign. I'm going to give a little more color here. So these ethics complaints were filed. Okay. That's normally a confidential process. Well, it is a confidential process. However, it's not legally confidential. I could release that there's been filed, or the person filed the complaint can release it. And what happened is, as soon as they were filed, they were released to the media. And so, it's denied due process in that. In the ethics complaint, and it's interesting, in the ethics complaint, they allege that I potentially violated these statutes, right? But in their recall documentation, they stated that I violated them. Okay, so they basically, and this is again my opinion. My opinion is they wanted to paint the picture to the public that I'd done something wrong to further their recall process. And so, because the total background of the recall process was the ethics complaints as well. And so, again, confidential process. They chose to release that to public in stages. It first came out in the first complaint with the building official, and then a couple weeks later, they released the one from a former Councilman McClary, and those were in process. And I think in their mind, again, this is again my opinion, that they were going to use that to further the recall process. They were going door to door, saying that the mayor's done illegal things, getting these signatures together. They had this media attention out there that people could read. And, when you knock on somebody's door that isn't paying attention, the mayor's doing something illegal, they're probably going to sign. So it really furthered their effort to get this. And I think what their goal was here was to get this, to actually get me removed from office and not worry about what the Ethics Commission decided. The appropriate way to done this was file the ethics complaint, let the Ethics Commission do their job, look into it, and at that point, if I was found to be negligent, then start the recall process. That would have been the appropriate process to do, but that's not what they had done. So going back to my email, my concern was, again, not that I was worried about it going through because I knew it wouldn't, but there's a big responsibility and burden on the city staff and your taxpayer dollars to make several copies of these petitions. You can ask Sal. He spent a weekend here getting boxes of petitions in a past recall attempt. It's a huge administrative effort to facilitate this. And I did not want staff to have to go through that. And so that's why I engaged the attorney. Once the process was filed, it looked like it was going to go through. And so I stated, and I'd like for you to move forward on this process as soon as possible so that the city can potentially avoid the expense and time of having to prepare the second round of petitions until a decision can be made regarding petition. I will forward the corresponding ethics complaints in a subsequent email to prevent attachment size issues. The ethics complaints, still pending review by the commission, can wait until we see what they do, but I wanted you to have them as they align with the recall effort and the allegations being sold to the public and may provide you additional detail for this case. I've attached the supporting documentation. Please let me know if you have any other needs or questions. And so he immediately, as you'll see in your packet, he immediately started to file that petition to the court for injunctive relief against the recall petition because a couple things, it wasn't legally sufficient to begin with because it was devoid of facts and it is denying my due process right. And so had they had gotten the signatures they needed, that was going to go to the court immediately to hopefully stop that process. And so that was my rationale for proceeding as I did. So I feel free to answer any questions as well on that. So.
Motion to reimburse the mayor the remaining money.
If you don't mind, it's in the memo. If you could frame your motion that you are finding. Let me find the language myself. That you're finding that.
What page?
Last paragraph.
says I move to find that ethics procedures seeks of reimbursement in the performance of his official duties.
That two, start at two.
Number 1 and 2.
1 and 2. The performance of his official duties, and 2, while serving a public purpose, Thornburg versus City of Fort Walton Beach. That's all you want me to do right there?
Well, what?
I mean, I'll read
What-
all of them.
Once you state the motion, let him.
Yeah, what do you want to give me my words like that? I don't have it memorized, right?
Don't make this hard, Nancy.
I was trying to make it easy. I wrote it down.
And
for
so,
you
Chris,
guys.
so once she states that, you can just so move it, and it'll be.
Yeah,
just say
so moved.
So what,
11:36. Okay, got it.
you find that the recall for which Mayor Hoover is seeking reimbursement arose from his official duties as the mayor while serving a public purpose, and his official duties as mayor while serving a public purpose, and you recommend that he be reimbursed $1,137.50.
So moved.
Second. Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion?
Sorry.
No? Any public comment? Again, I'm abstaining from this vote as well. So, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, I apologize to the public. I apologize to this council. I'm glad I've put this behind me, and I'm anxious to get back and work for the people.
I'd
happen again.
Sure. I'd like to comment. I mean, there's $3,300, but it's more than that because it's all the time spent, the legal time, and all. It's probably $10,000 is what it costs the city.
Probably.
That's crazy.
Which is, as the mayor, some of the language she read from the case. That's one of the reasons that the courts have said individuals in his situation, should you find that he meets the 2 prongs of that test, should be reimbursed, because it's not just about him. It's about everyone in the city and the cost and the expense and the time.
To me, the success and the kind of get back on this is your success in that seat. Thank you, John Eric Hoover, for your service to our city.
It's people's right to do things like that, but you have to be legally sufficient. If you're not legally sufficient with what you're doing, then this is what happens. You end up spending money on things you shouldn't spend money on.
Okay. One thing I will point out, so I have not paid for this yet because my attorney was gracious enough to wait until we could get this canceled. I don't know if we need to bend anything, that the city will pay them directly. So they didn't go through my hands. Is it?
Someone make a motion that the payment can go directly to the attorney.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion second. Further discussion? Any public comment? Again, I'm staying on.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to do it or not procedurally, but all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, next up, item number 4, fire station feasibility study purchase report or purchase request. I'll pass it to Mr. Copeland for introduction.
Thank you. As you all should be aware, our fire department, as it currently exists, has been around for a long time. And unfortunately, time has not been a friend to the station, and has now put us in the position where we need to look to build a new department somewhere, possibly there, somewhere else, we don't know. And because we don't know, we have to do a study to figure that all out. And the first step in figuring it out is doing this feasibility study. I consider it to be more of a program study of what is the size that we need, what are the things that are going to be contained within this department, and then obviously where this new station needs to be built. Fire department staff, led by Chief Poltercastri, has been doing a lot of due diligence, talking to different architectural firms to figure out what is necessary and what that cost is going to be. And today, present to City Council the firm of Fleshman, Garcia, and Maslowski. I'm going to do you want to do a little bit of the background on why you're presenting that? I'll just say really quick that we are looking to do a piggyback for Pasco County, who is the design of a number of stations and will be designing a number of stations over the last few years into the future, and felt that is top quality and will suffice for the city.
As you guys are aware, welcome to the council. As you guys are aware, we about a year ago, Mr. Koppler sat down with the then council members that were on the council and put together a list of priorities for the city. The fire station ranked in like the top 1 or 2 priorities for the station at that time, which gave us the go ahead to say, hey, look, we need to start moving forward. We've all known it's a 1960s building, built in 1960, originally as a police fire station city hall. When this city hall was built in 2002, the police department then moved out and moved inside their own building where they're at now. We met and we called around to all neighboring agencies and said, hey, you know, fire stations isn't something that's not being done right now. Called to Hernando County Fire Rescue, Pasco County Fire Rescue, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, and called out to all the other organizations, said, hey, who's your architects? Who are you working with? And can we get their contact information? The chief and I met with 4 to 5 different architect firms, and going through those architect firms, some of them really just met us on a phone call and said, hey, what are you looking to do and how are you looking to do it? All the way up to the gentleman that we have here tonight, where they met with us, gave us a presentation on who they are, why they build fire stations, how they build fire stations, how many fire stations they built, even did a little legwork about the history of our fire station, the histories of properties within inside the city, and started looking forward. And we were, you know, impressed, obviously, but we continued meeting with other ones. And then went through the process of continuing on their end, the compliment on their end, still saying, hey, we found more information. We know you guys talked about this. A few things stuck out about the company that you have in front of us. Ironically, they do build for Pasco County Fire Rescue. That wasn't, it's a pro, right? Because we can see their work. But one of the other things is they have a lot of experience in building fire stations in flooded prone areas, like our city. They have a lot of experience building fire stations in general. And you see in the packet that they presented to Pasco County. They build everywhere from Hillsborough County to Sarasota to St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, and they came highly recommended by a lot of the fire chiefs that we've sat down and met with. They've also allowed us to go tour. They've set up meetings with us to go tour how they project manage stuff, or how are they going to follow along in the process with us. All the architect firms that we met with had that opportunity, and they were the only architect firm that took that opportunity to go ahead and do that. We even tried leadering some other ones along to say, hey, look, are something you're interested in. Once we kind of came down and we know who we wanted to go to, we tried to figure out how are we going to get them to come here. Does this have to go out to bid? Does this have to go out or anything else? And ironically, Pasco County, as you can see in their scoring card, took 11 different architects and graded them themselves, and they scored high with them also on their scoring high level on that different side. So here we are tonight in the beginning stages of trying to figure out what we need as a fire station, right? You guys are going to come to us and say, hey, look, do we need a current? Is our fire station size good enough? Well, we know obviously our bays aren't good enough, right? We talk about how we have to buy trucks specifically for that bay. We know that. But this company here with this project management is not only going to look at properties, but also look at what we need as a fire station. Do we need 9 bunk rooms? Do we need 3 bunk rooms? Do we need 5 bunk rooms? They professionally are going to be able to tell us what it is exactly we need for our community and the future community needs. That's the big thing right there, is the future community needs. And we have a lot of projects that you guys have ahead of you that we have to consider. This is going to be a building, hopefully, that lasts another 50 years inside here. It's a big project. They also, when we were meeting with them, we explained to them community input's important to us, and would they be willing to have community input, and they were more than willing to work alongside with community input. You know, it's going to be obviously it's not going to be an inexpensive project, but they're willing to work with us on that. So we're asking permission tonight to begin the process on the feasibility study of the fire station itself, properties, and then also, as you read through the memo, the additional stuff that comes with that.
Thank you. Also say that some of you guys are new up here in gals, but we'd had a planning session as we talked about the budget, and we went around and put priorities on things we want to do, and overwhelmingly, if I remember correctly, that new fire station was overwhelmingly let's do this. So
I would look like I had bias if I said it was number one.
I believe it.
But thank you for counting. It was number one. I'm just not. I don't want
I
to.
think there are a lot more firemen in that meeting than there were anybody else. Running around putting pins on it.
Yeah.
We strong arm some.
And as I said, part of this, instead of us, we started from square one with meeting with the vendors, and then as we met into this particular vendor name kept coming up and kept coming up. And then when we spoke to Pasco County, I said, well, that's when we found out they actually went through and they had 11 of them that they actually scored. I know that's 600 pages of paperwork we gave you, but they actually met and they had facilities maintenance. They had their truck maintenance team, several staff members, all, purchasing, OMB, all met and grilled, all of these engineering firms about what they want, what's expected of them, this and that. They did all of that legwork already, and said through the paperwork and the charts, you can see that they're the ones that came out through flying colors. And they've been building fire stations for them for several years now, I do believe, right? Yeah. And they're still going. They still got plenty more to do.
And the cool part is they're changing and evolving their fire stations
Constantly.
What was being built then is not being built now, and they've stayed with current times and cost saving times. That was another thing that we noticed about this architect firm was that one of the things there's different types of evacuation systems to get the smoke out of the bays, and they found a way to potentially have some cost savings on that. So we were impressed by that too. That it's not like, oh, we need this because it's the most expensive thing. That wasn't their case when they presented to us. I wish I had the packet here, but I came from my part-time job. They came their first day with a packet about this thick of research that they already had did. They were the only architect firm that we met with that did that. And no dollars have been spent with them.
Just one more thing. You may remember from the budget process, we did appropriate $50,000, the penny for Pasco, for this study.
Yeah. So it's a budget expense.
Yeah, it's a budget expense. We came under for you.
And that was one of the things I was going to comment on, because I've commented on every time I see a request, is how much is in the budget, how much is the request, are we saving money, or are we going over what we allocated?
We are saving
15,000 under, so I appreciate that.
And we're way past due.
He said he came from his second job, so we're obviously saving money on his salary if he has to work somewhere else. Is that not true?
I didn't say that.
There is, before you get too joyous about being $15,000 under that.
Oh, here it comes.
There, depending upon the next phase of this, one of the possible locations may require some structural.
Like a study of the ground. To make sure.
Yeah, geotechnical. Yeah. There was a word in my mind, I couldn't remember what it was. But,
it's not that bad.
Seismic check.
And so that type of testing may factor into this as well. But again, I think that number, at least some of the estimates that I've seen for those numbers, are still well below 15,000. So we won't have any issue.
Good to have the cushion.
I got a question for you. So I just saw the council approve a special fire truck, like the short version.
Yeah, well, yeah, a little bit shorter version.
Build this big Taj Mahal to drive it.
Yeah, but they're going to need the check before. I'm sorry to interrupt. They're going to need the check before they get the station.
Yeah, so that was brought up. The issue was, though, that, we don't know, this is going to be a large expense, right? We know we need a fire truck. So we had to build the fire truck to our current base, but that set some pretty strict limitations on us. It also sets future strict limitations on us that we could never, ever have an aerial apparatus at that fire station. Never. And to you guys as taxpayers, that could be concerning if you're talking about putting high-rise structures in.
Big of a lot. It might be in there somewhere, but how big of a lot?
So that's what they're
You want.
That's what they're going to tell us. That's exactly what we're paying for.
You guys must have an idea, though, don't you?
It's not us sending you the Taj Mahal that we want to build.
I know you want 5 acres, but
We sit out front of our fire station in the the DMMA site right in front of it, right? So we stare at that. And then when they had came in and did a presentation, we had mentioned, all right, well, there's a piece of city-owned property. I know we own several different pieces of of plots of land, but I'm like, there's a piece of property, and I had specifically asked them that question. They're the ones that said, all right,
How many fire trucks do you have? How many boats do you have? How long are your trailers? They're the ones that ask me all these questions so they can put that information into their database.
I would think
and say,
that lot would be big enough for you.
this how many square feet you need.
Yeah.
But the chances are we will probably have to go 2-story. That'll leave the downstairs for all the bay, can flood, water run in and out, and don't really impact anything. And all the living quarters would be up above that. So our goal would be to design something that would probably be 2-story and could go anywhere in the city.
And pull through?
And pull through, yeah. And with pull through. So you don't have to worry
So you
about
just
backing
said
in.
something that concerns me is you're going to put all the equipment on the bottom. It's going to flood.
No, we'll move it out of there.
Yeah, we wouldn't.
Evacuate it.
You guys would move it? Okay.
Just like we do now.
I mean, we would have to build it to the same
Floodplain.
standards that we require residents to build their homes. So it's going to be above +3.
Gotcha.
Right? So we're going to do above that. And I think there's a couple things you need to keep in mind as you look to site a fire department inside the city of Port Richey. You know, one is there's not a lot of large acres that you can there's not a lot of large acreage that is in a service location, because again, you know, where we're at right now kind of services the city well from a time perspective, and so it would make sense to go to an extreme that would then drive up the response calls to other parts of the city. So when you start kind of putting this together, you're probably not going to be a lot further away from where the fire department is right now. And again, you start looking, there's not 5-acre lots all around there. And there may not be 5-acre lots that are attainable at a right price to do this. And you know, the strategy going forward on this is, you know, how do you build what's necessary to service what is needed for the right amount of money.
For an extended amount of time. Not
exactly.
not
For the
this
next
year,
100
for-
years.
Right.
And so, you know, I know that there's a county station that's going in on probably a constricted, impacted lot that is probably costing them $8-9 million extra to build.
They would know. You talking about Station 19?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you know, was, in my mind, when you have to do $8 or $9 million more than what's necessary, it's probably not the right site.
Right.
And so, you know, as they said, and I fall victim to this as well. You know, I see across the street, I see acreage enough to house a 2-story building in an urban setting. So you're going to go up. It'll probably meet the needs, and there's already fill there. Now, that's me, not an architect or an engineer, saying that. And that's the type of thing that we need, you know, a professional to come in and tell us, first off, you know, what is that size of the building that we need. And then you can start matching it to locations. And there may be a better location. There may be a location that is available, it costs less. You don't have to do as much site prep as what you'd have to do there. And so when you're looking at the cost, you try to put all these factors together. And so, you know, at the end, what they'll produce is something to give you thought about what are those costs going to be and what are the best choices for you to make.
Will these companies go to places that aren't even for sale for our fire department and ask?
Well, they wouldn't be doing that.
That's what I'm asking.
We would probably be doing that, but again, I think the first thing is to understand what is that size that you're building to, because, you know, obviously if it's going to be, you know, a footprint of 10,000 square feet, I'm just making numbers up, 10,000 square feet, you're not going to be looking for a lot that's only 5,000 square feet.
All right.
So we need to get that piece done first, and then the next piece is, okay, where can that fit? And, you know, honestly,
I'm just saying, you never know who might sell the right spot, but you don't know unless you ask.
Well, and that's
because if that's your
opportunity.
spot, we'd go ask.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the.
Oh wait,
hold on 1 second. I just want to make sure. So on the agreement, this is to the city attorney.
Yes.
On the agreement, do we need to put in there some language for us to negotiate the contract?
Yes, yes. Because we don't have, we're need approval to move forward, wanting to piggyback, but we still need to negotiate the actual contract for the city with the company. So we need that as part of the motion to negotiate the contract.
So it's a motion.
Move forward with the piggyback.
Go ahead, take the motion back.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to do here real quick. If
Make
I
it
can
easy
do
for
this. Yeah, so the motion is going to be approve the piggyback purchase purchase for the fire station feasibility study conducted by Fleshman, Garcia, Maslowski, not to exceed $35,000, and authorize city manager, city attorney to negotiate a contract for that agreement.
So,
Yeah, I'd like to make a
Lisa
motion
moved.
to
I think.
approve.
Say so. Lisa moved. Do I got a second?
Bob moved.
Well,
Second.
You can get out. So Bob second.
Bob second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yes. I think we need to really look for another location. And there's places outside of the city that abut the city that we could easily look at doing that. Why would we want to build on a prime piece of property that we could probably sell and buy a better piece of property for that?
Well, this exercise is not.
No, I know that.
Taking a property.
And again, we need to figure out what size we need. That's what this is gonna. We need, like Chief said, we could need. I mean, it's city manager. We could need 5 acres. We could need 2 acres. We could need 1 acre. We don't know until the professionals who've done this far more than we have, tell us.
And that's again, as I said, I kind of fell into the easy thought process, but when you go through these, and I've been through these, so I should have known better. You start finding out that there's the cost on a constricted lot or a lot that's too small drives up your construction costs, where you could spend less money acquiring a larger parcel of land and reduce your construction costs, so you're better off. So
Look at the options.
exactly right.
There's gonna be a lot of options.
We don't need to go deep into this, but once that happens, what happens to the old fire department? Does the police department get it? Because they should.
Well, I mean, you could potentially knock that down and build on that site. I mean, it's another. I mean, there's all these different options that.
Well, I'm just saying we're not gonna forget them.
Yeah.
We need something too.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Your 2 days.
First things first.
Sorry, fire chief. You knew I'd do that.
Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are just over the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to suggest that we stop here for a minute, take a 10-minute recess. We'll come back at 15:15. Finish up.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. So recess for 10 minutes.
I enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Thank you very much.
You know, that you're supposed to expect to use during your development process. Like for starting here, that's why law firms all this last week they do. I'm like, how's that? It's in the code. And so like part of your the 90 days and maintaining and noticing everybody, I officially signed it.
Oh, yeah.
How could I not?
We're back to today, we lost the first.
And then with you is.
What happened to the cake?
I enjoy listening to.
It went back there behind well, so my dad.
That's what you guys I guess somebody got the
Put new frosting on.
I guess someone must have
buy a jar of frosting and away we go, right?
I don't know.
And it would have been buttercream too. There would have been happy.
No other city that we have
But I was told that that's probably not
we only have like 13 cities or 5 cities. Yeah, so yeah. All I do is what Joanne has packed together to show where to go. David, registration, and she gets the address for that VIN number. I say, oh look, she said it's the right address. No one showed up. That's how I do that. I'll say that's what I just need to get this created. Telling out that knew where they were going, and I guess they're going to make sure a process was followed. But I don't think you need. Maybe that's yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why it's fine to keep going. I mean, it's not that much time for me. Something that you guys will look at it. Maybe I'm sure you want to I'm sure tomorrow's not going to be the entire list. What's this Impounded thing? You know, but if you see anything about it, you can look at it.
No, I understand it. I'm not arguing.
Yeah, and you just change. Yeah, you just change. I am not having a problem doing it. Something that you think. You have your process and you have the company. The process they require. I don't think. Right now, right now your coach says I have to.
Less than more.
It was interesting. But anyway, just say no. I'm morning, like here's some papers. And then you open it, you'll be like, yeah. I think he's covered here once for me. I try not to miss it. There's meetings. Oh yeah. He's still working. You should have ready to go. She's at the point now that that's right. It's a good spot. He's doing good.
That's good. I think I'm on the same page because when I got this, I was making notes today about when the dates are, how much they were, and all this other stuff to get with them to figure it all out. Just whenever you want to sit down and anything, just come on in.
I was gonna show you. Maybe case, vehicle bin, date in, date out. Days impounded, any accrued fees. That's another thing. I wanted to see how they're accruing the fees. And it's so much a day, but that gives you a value. It's really not costing us anything for that. You know what I mean?
For some reason, I don't know. I get to look it up the rule, but they cap it at 90 days.
Yes, they do.
And then when that's where they come up with the prices. But yeah, it's funny because I had the same things on here when I was going through, and I'm looking at like kind of generic sheets.
But what I was also wondering, I was in there. Never told anybody. Do we make any efforts to try to talk to them along the way, or do we just wait till 90 days and up your deal's up? You know,
most of them we can't get in touch with.
Or they're in jail or something.
No, we don't. So that's where most of them is usually we can get in touch with them and figure out something to get something out of it.
And you know, if that's just phone call, especially with us moving to dispatch, and I don't know where that is. That's on my list.
It's in county's hands.
Right. I thought they signed off on it. I was hoping to hear something here. Did you know that?
No, I found out Thursday. Thursday was my retirement down there, and then I found out Thursday night, and I was like, oh boy.
Where were you at?
Tarpon. He was down at Tarpon.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'm back. I'm the GM of Tarpon Landing Marina next to Captain Jack's.
Okay.
But I retired from the sheriff's office.
Okay.
And I was a mayor of a small town after that. So this is my retirement.
What do you do up here?
I'm the GM of the marina.
He works down at the marina down by next to Captain Jack's.
That's what I'm saying. So why are you in Port
He lives in Port Richey.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Just like you work here, but you live in Newport Richey. Right?
Yeah, when I worked here 5 years ago, one of the lifts broke at American Marina, and when those boats fell, they crashed into other boats, and the gas was leaking all over the place.
Ronnie almost broke this much.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was so
Actually worked the, yeah, I don't know if you remember Old Man Corman. He shot himself in the head, and I had to work that suicide, and I had to bust down his door to get him. He was still alive, but he died in the helicopter. He was 90-something years old. So, yeah, it's full circle. It's, as soon as I come back and
let me know when you get back. And I can see when you get on the subject. It's okay a little bit and then warm your way back. But
I'm like,
and no, it's and it's his presentation.
what happened? What happened? He's new. Yeah, I get it.
And then we did everything that they made. And they made him. And today is his first day ever. And it should have been Dave, and if not Dave, it should have been Bob, and if not Bob, then it should have been. But I definitely wanted one of those two. Something and I turned him, I go, no offense, I voted against you. And I go, no offense, you shouldn't be it. I'm going to find out what he's happening.
I have my opinion.
I have my opinion too, so. I don't think so. No, because I wondered that myself.
Listen, I don't care. Hey, y'all should go to. I worry about the fire department.
Oh, no, I worry about the fire department too.
Let's go to Wing House later.
I worry about
Uh-oh, why, what's happening?
And I worry about but everybody.
I'm in the same truck, I can't.
They get it.
But I'm in the same truck.
I
I can't, I still get home. I gotta drive it home. We'll just do it tonight, we'll just go. I'm all for it. You know, it's funny, I laugh about downtown Newport Richey for how many years going out downtown, Bourbon on Main, Old Chili's Tavern. That was about, there wasn't much there, you know what I mean? And then going out downtown, it was never even on our radar. It was the place you drove through to get to Safety Harbor, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Clearwater, right? Now, we go here all the time. I wish that we could area back up and get it going. Two cities work a little bit together on some of these events because we have waterfront restaurants, waterfront that Newport doesn't have. They just don't have anything on the waterfront. So they have the downtown. We don't.
Fire department gets everything. Police department gets nothing. Nobody
And their ducks have to drain. Yeah. What's with that?
I don't like you anymore. We're done now.
We'll be there to help you afterwards. We'll provide patches. Yeah, come to the fire station. Oh my God, they're everywhere.
Wow, wow, wow.
Next up is item number 5, Fire Department Ford F-250 purchase. I just want to state that normally we only allow one fire department thing on the agenda, but somehow we've got 2. But pass it to Mr. Coppler for introduction.
You, those council members who were here during the budget process might recall that during the CIP and discussions, to replace the 2001 Ford Expedition. They are putting forth a purchase request for a 2025 Ford F-250 4x. Two things I will point out on that, and I'll turn it over to Captain Quinn. First, they're looking to use the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract to buy this, which is a nationally recognized cooperative purchasing program. And secondly, this purchase was budgeted in the Penny for Pasco 5-year capital improvement plan. And I think it was 75. Thank you. I couldn't remember. Captain Quinn.
Stand for any questions? No, Go ahead.
What motor is on it?
This is the larger V8. It's the V8. It's a gasoline engine.
V8 gasoline engine.
V8 gasoline.
To save
Like a
money, we didn't
460
go,
kind of thing or something?
we didn't go with the diesel to save some money. It doesn't run a lot. You know, if the truck ran all the time, hours and hours and hours, we would have went with the diesel. But we felt that really we need the towing capacity is what we need out of it. And the truck that we're replacing can't do anything near what that truck can do. What was the difference between the diesel and the regular? I don't remember the actual price.
And the other part is the diesel could take up to a year to get in.
Oh, wow.
We'll be over our
cost.
Yeah.
I've seen the big blocks go both ways. I've seen them go like 350, 400,000 miles, and I've also seen them like go out every 100. You know. Anyway.
So we're aggressive with our maintenance program. It obviously gets PMI'd every 5,000 miles. We stay up on the maintenance of these vehicles. I mean, obviously we have a 2001 truck that we're replacing. So
How many miles is on that? When are you, Captain, when are you using this one?
what?
What are you using
So this truck's going to be used for pulling the air trailer that we acquired through the Safer Grant, which requires the medium-duty truck to be pulled on. So right now, what we have to do is we have to dump the water on the brush truck, then hook the truck up. So we got to wait for 300 gallons of water to dump out of a 2.5-inch line, which is more time-consuming when we're trying to go for a call than what you think it is. The other part of that too is this will pull all of our boats, including the shared police and boat with them. And this boat, what this is going to be doing is going to be set up for a utility type vehicle is what we kind of call it as. So we'll have all the water rescue equipment on side of there for flooding, high water profile. Those are the vehicles we used during the flooding that we had with Helene. I'd rather put a $60,000 truck than a $1.5 million truck through the salt water. When you've got to look at trucks that we're pushing through. So that's why we're asking for those capabilities. It's going to actually look just like the fire chief's truck. We're not changing anything between that truck and our truck. So you'll have 2 practically identical trucks.
2-door, regular, standard?
It's a 4-door because of the
4-door, so you get extra seats.
Yeah, because so our volunteers use this to supplement when we get a fire. They'll come in and jump on that truck to respond it to there. It'll be used for that. It'll be used for staffing. Pulling the trailers, like I said before, and replacing the 2001 vehicle that it's currently serving as.
Any questions or motion?
I hear replacing. Is that going to be surplus? Can we send it to the auction?
Well, that wasn't.
Yeah, that's
going to have with the boss. I mean, it's a 24-year-old vehicle, 70,000 miles on it, but it's running and driving. And my opinion would be let the city hold on to it until it becomes a cost issue. Because I don't think you're going to get any more for it a year and a half or 2 years from now than you're going to get today. But that's up to you guys. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, right. Fire inspector using it today?
Yes, he's using it currently right now.
So when he's using it, you're not really using it in fire capacity or that place.
Well,
he could use building officials' truck that's sitting in the parking lot.
Well, no, because he supplements our fire response too. So, for instance, we've been running into where we're getting 2 calls for service inside the city, and we only have 1 fire truck to send. Right now, the fire inspector responds to give first response to that. So he needs a vehicle that he can respond with lights.
So he's capable of responding.
Yeah, this will have medical equipment, AED, all that other stuff on it.
We put AEDs on there and medical equipment, and he responds to car accidents and backs up on bigger events. And so while he's out doing inspections, he's still got his ear on the radio, and if we need him, we call him.
I gotta say, for pricing, this is a good price for this truck. It really is.
How much is
These trucks are not this cheap.
Hold on, I got two people talking at the same time. I'm sorry. Bob, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious how much Sourcewell is actually saving us.
So when you look at there's two contracts mostly that cities will go under, FSA, which is the Florida Sheriff's Office Association, and Sourcewell. You're talking pennies of a difference, and some charge more for this and then less for that, but the bottom line is the same. Sourcewell is actually more aggressive on the F-250 than what the FSA, the Florida Sheriff's Office contract was.
And how fast can they provide it?
So when I talked to this guy, he said he's getting about a 3-month turnaround on trucks right now. He would have a quicker turnaround if we weren't doing a red vehicle, because he gets a lot of white ones.
Color, I mean,
Well, no, 3 months. That's about average on a truck is 3 months.
white.
So
White, and you put red lettering on it.
well, we've thrown different stuff out, but it's about 3 months on all vehicles, and that's another reason why we didn't choose diesel, is the year lead time on that. Ford's lead time. The other reason why we chose Ford, Ford's lead time is a little bit better than most others. And if you notice, the price did go actually up than the last time we bought a F-250, and the reason being is that Ford's being a little bit more priced higher on contracts, just because Ford is the only vehicle manufacturer that has stuck on government pricing, where other contractors, as you know, have pulled off, taken on. Chevy pulled off, Dodge pulled off, then they go jump back on. So Ford, to kind of stay competitive and not say, hey, look, we're with you through the long run, and we're going to just charge a little bit more.
You have something else?
Yeah. What is the warranty they give us with this truck?
So unfortunately, because we're government, we get such a good price on the car. We get the normal warranty that a consumer would.
So whatever it is.
Yep, we get the same one.
All right. Good. Can we make a motion?
I need somebody to do something.
I'll make a motion. We approve the purchase of the F-250 truck for the fire department.
Second. Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? Dave? Okay. Public comment? Seeing none, put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Opposed?
No, I didn't oppose.
Okay. Well, you
I just
say,
made. No, I was trying to keep up with it.
I got unanimous.
Yeah.
Ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Next up, item number 6, discussion of streets that golf carts are prohibited on. I'll pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Yes, at the previous meeting, there was a discussion, I think led by the mayor, that we add an item to talk about the allowing of golf carts on Washington Street. Currently, as you're aware, it's prohibited, as well as on a number of other streets in the city where it's prohibited. I've kind of outlined, based upon what our code says and what the state law says, that has, kind of the level that has to be met for golf carts to be allowed on city streets. From my review of this, unfortunately in the past, there wasn't, although they said they had a lot of discussion, it doesn't look like they had a lot of discussion about Washington Street, and was not able to find anything definitive why they didn't choose to allow golf carts on Washington Street, other than, when they approved the ordinance, they said it was based upon, the safety considerations, but again, didn't necessarily say Washington Street. They just said the streets that they were not allowing. So obviously, a new council can relook at any of those streets and make a different determination today based upon the traffic, speed, volume, character of vehicles, and you could easily change the ordinance to allow it there, as well as on any of the streets that currently are not allowed, as long as they fall within what the state says you can allow. Basically a municipal street designated by the municipality, a 2-lane county road within the city jurisdiction to do that.
So, thank you. I'll jump in here. So obviously, Washington Street was one major myth that I want to talk about, obviously, but I'd like to look at this more holistically and even simplify it to some degree. I would rather see the statute again because I'm for small government, less regulation. I would like to see this golf cart statute be a little more lenient than it is. I would venture. I mean, I want to be a golf cart friendly city, even more friendly than Newport Richie. And so, what I would propose is that we look at basically any city. Sorry, Chopper. We got to make some headway here. But anyway, the idea behind any street within the city that's the 30 miles per hour and 35 miles an hour, and I might have to ask Chief to opine on this, but low-speed vehicles can be on any street 35 mile an hour or lower, but golf carts is 30. Now, there is a max speed on golf carts. It's 5 miles an hour less. I think they're 20 and 25 on the low-speed vehicles, and maybe that's why this is like that. But from my perspective, I wouldn't. And again, most of the streets in the city, if not all, I think are 30 miles per hour anyway, or less. And so I would two things. I'd like to see that we open it up to any street within the city limits that's 30 or 35 mile an hour or lower. I'd venture to put it at 35, just in case, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But if we take on any more areas, we don't have to go back and name roads and all that. It's just they get annexed in if they have a street that's within that parameter that they can have a golf cart on.
Unicode, the only street that it specifically talks about and names is Washington. No. State Routes 19 Ridge is State Route 2. So those two, no.
Right.
The only street specifically is Washington. However, on our city website,
The map
lists things that aren't in our Unicode, which I don't know why that is.
I can tell you that.
19 Ridge, Washington, Olsner, Limit, Leo Kid, which I don't understand Leo Kid. There's golf carts up and down it all the time. Pine Hill Road, only east of Apple 6. Springer, Old Ridge Road, Squib, and Bench. Now, I understand the last four because they're over here. They wouldn't want anybody to come up 19 or come up Ridge, but if you are on one of those streets, you can't go around. I mean, I don't know where you go anyway, but the whole point is these streets right over on this side are on that map too.
Yeah, I think the reason is because those are county roads. Is that
county maintained roads? But
county maintained.
But again, it goes back to you can allow the city can designate county maintained roads within the municipal corporation as long as they're two lanes. Yeah, 2 lanes.
And so our code currently, the way it reads, we exclude county roads.
So you're saying Leo Kid is a county road?
There, I believe, are
Leo Kid and Pine Hill?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
nah, that's somebody messed this up.
Well, I think there was a couple different things going on. I don't know about Pine Hill Road. That one was strange to me when I looked at it.
Yeah, because there's a little place between Washington and Leo Kid that you're allowed to be on your golf cart, but you're not allowed on Leo Kid or Washington. So how?
So
I almost said it. How do you get to that spot?
So
if you can't be on this road or that road, how do you get to that road in the middle?
So some of the streets, like when you get there, Springer, Old Ridge Road, Squib, Bench, and Breeze. I think the reason that those are the way they are is because you have this county system that intertwines with the city. So there's portions of those roads, and most of them are county maintained roads.
Well, I thought that was because they connect to Ridge and 19. So really, how do you get there?
No. I think, again, I can't say this for a fact. I'm assuming based upon the way that everything's written. Those streets specifically back there, because they kind of go in and out of the city, that they're county, and then you have some that are in the city that are county maintained. They probably took the approach is that you could be driving your golf cart on a city, inside the city, county maintained road, okay, but you go outside of the city very quickly. And
Who made that map? Because 10 years ago, this map wasn't around. So at some point in the last 10 years, Somebody made that map.
Yeah, no idea.
Well,
So I can go home and make a little map of my own, and I can bring it in here and say, well, you can drive here and you can't drive there. We'll stick it on the website, and then everybody will sit here and guess who made that map. Nobody will know who made that map.
Well, so there's a definite disconnect between the map and the language. Actually, I think the language that probably coincide a little bit better, but the Washington Street is definitely called out specifically. So my proposal is, let's just open up golf carts to all roads within the city, county or otherwise, that are 35 mile an hour or less. And
How do you deal with though?
You can't do 19
again,
bridge. Though.
Right.
well, no, not
Because that's
state,
you can't
state
because
roads.
it's more
45
than two
on that
lanes too.
Yeah.
But those areas again, specifically behind us, where you have only small sections that are in the city, so they'd be driving on legally on
Ours.
a road, and then the outside not legally driving on it.
What about over in what is it? Candle? What? Lantern and Candle? You know, your neighborhood. So you got to go. You're in Port Richey. You're in New Port Richey. You're in the county. You're back in Port Richey. That's not blocked off. Anybody can drive a golf cart back there.
Well,
that's three different jurisdictions.
Well, so we can only control what we can control, right? And of course, my long-term goal, and hopefully not too long-term, is that we annex in some of these enclaves and stuff behind us, that we've solved that problem.
Right.
And obviously, if there's places that we need to work with Newport Richey coming out of Candlelight or whatever, maybe we can petition those guys to allow that as well. I don't know the answer to that, but from our city boundaries, which is what we have jurisdiction over, that would be my proposal: is we take out the county road stuff, obviously exclude U.S. highway, state roads, because we don't have the ability to do anything with those. But the county roads, we do if they're 2 lanes, and any road that we have is our jurisdiction as well. So that would be my recommendation to make it easy.
Well, I'm interested in what the chief might have to say.
Chief, you got comments on it?
I don't see a problem with that. The problem we would have is the crossing of US Highway 19 and making sure the signage is there on all of those cross streets so people know, and on Ridge Road also, so we don't have any fatal crashes along those roadways. But the rest of them, like you say, Washington Street, going back to Candlelight and all that stuff, I mean, it's a 30 mile an hour speed limit down there anyway. So, you know, even going up Pine Hill, I understand how it changes to county to city, because a lot of it goes by the businesses. If it's a business area that's a county business, then it becomes a county road at that point. And we still work crashes on all those roads, but as far as an ordinance like this, you know, I don't really, and we don't have a problem with it if it's under the 35 mile an hour roads. It's just the proper signage and education to the people so they know and they don't violate the laws.
Right. The on the crossings, obviously, you still can't cross. And I don't know if you're familiar or not, but we actually in the process right now of working on Grand Boulevard to make that a designated crossing. We've got to modify that intersection. So yeah, this by opening up on those roads, you still don't have the ability to cross any state highway on a golf cart. Period. Now, so really, Grand Boulevard is probably the only place that we have.
Unless you're an LSV.
Well, right, LSV is totally different than us.
Or if you have a golf cart tag in the back, you can't cross.
Right. Yeah. She'll tell you that story.
LSV can cross 19.
If you're LSV, you're a motor vehicle. You're licensed and tagged, and you can
go on any road.
You can go on any road, cross any state highway, 35 or less.
35 or less.
But when you cross 19, what's that mean?
You can cross 19.
Okay.
LSV, there's no restriction, but it has to be LSV. So, and golf carts can be converted to LSV, but if you're not converted, you can't cross unless it's a designated crossing.
Understand.
So that's the beauty of the LSV program is you really don't have any restrictions. You can drive it like a car on a 35 mile an hour or less road. And then there's a couple things in here that I just went through and highlighted. Down into the meat of this, we talk about item C, golf carts must be equipped with headlights, brake lights, turn signals, windshield. Okay, all these things. And then we reference Florida Statute 316-271 on the horn. I think it's, let me pull my thing up here. Yeah, so that is strictly on the horn. But down below in F, we say golf carts should not be operated on a street, county road, state highway unless golf cart meets the equipment requirements of Florida Statute 316-212, which repeats most of that, except it doesn't include headlights, turn signals, windshield, seat belts, child restraints as required by law for motor vehicles. So in cleaning up or redoing this, I think we have to clean up the equipment that we just referenced, whatever the Florida statute does, unless we want more specific items in there. And then same thing in F. I'm sorry, that's just no. Yeah, so we reference Florida statute, which is not as comprehensive as C, but we do repeat stuff in there. So if we just kind of make that, matter of fact, if we refer just to Florida statute, unless we want to add some more things, we really don't need to worry about that. If it changes our code with it. So I think that's all I had annotated on it. So I think that the purpose of this discussion is not necessarily to act on it, other than the fact that if you guys are interested in having that drafted up, we'll task Nancy with putting those changes together and doing that. Or if you want to leave it as is, we can do that too.
No, I think your vision for making us a golf cart friendly community, which opens up that whole, beachfront, waterfront, drive down to the restaurant, have a nice dinner, sit by the water on the boardwalk. We need to foster that the best we can and opening up that to golf carts. One of the most frustrating things for me when I moved to this community is I bought a golf cart and I couldn't go anywhere. I was stuck to now that everything's closed, Gill Dogs and all that stuff, there's really nowhere to go.
Right.
So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yep.
So
why don't we change on the road mile per hour to 30 mile an hour, and then we're good to go anywhere.
I think we're already there, but
no, we're not.
Is there someone talking about 35?
Congress.
So is Congress ours? I don't believe it's ours. Is it?
I don't even think part of it is.
Congress is 25 down at Newport Richie, and when it gets up the ridge, it's 45.
Well, so I'll go ahead and I was going to save that for my comments, but the Board of County Commission, I believe today, just approved lowering that speed limit from 45 to 35 at that section. So that will be 35 all the way through there now. So I did get that changed.
So we're good at 35 and 30. So we don't need to change it from 30.
Well, it specifically says 30. So if we had a 35 mile an hour road in the city or county road in the city in our jurisdiction, it could not currently. So use Congress as an example. If in fact that does become us at some point, then that 35 mile an hour would allow on that road as well.
Only for LSVs.
Well, no, it'd be for golf carts. That's
No, golf carts can't go.
They're 30.
Only 30 and less.
LSCs are 35.
Based on our code, that's correct.
No,
Based
based
on
on the
state.
law.
That's a law.
Is that state statute? I don't think.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a speed limit on state statute for golf carts. It's only talks 35. Low speed vehicle, my understanding.
I'm not sure about that. I have to do some research and get back with you.
I thought it was 30 for a unlicensed.
The only place I
LSV
found
was
statute
less than 30.
is that when they talk about golf carts, they talk about because you basically tell the speed. Technically, and I know seems odd, but technically you could put a golf cart if you deem it as safe on a 45 mile an hour road in your city because there is no statutory speed limit for that. But at LSV there is. LSVs you have to be 35 or less. So there's again I'm pretty sure that's correct, but I'm not 100%. But I've been doing a lot of research on this, so I would just, and we could draft it that way, 35 or less, pending on it doesn't violate Florida statute.
Well, let's move to do that then.
Okay. So I'll ask the motion. So I'm going to make. I'm not going to make a motion. I'm going to state the motion. Somebody move for. So looking for a motion to have Nancy modify our golf cart code to make it consistent with the Florida statutes on equipment, and to revise it to allow for any county road within the city as well, and to change the speed at 35 mile an hour or less, and to, I think I covered everything, didn't I?
Yes.
Change all the speed limits to 30 miles.
I did that. And then the county roads, any street within the city, basically, to be legal use of golf cart.
Those are the three things I noted.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll
The
move
motion.
to that.
So I got a motion from Bob. Is there a second? Okay, second, Dave. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And Chopper was not here to hear it.
Defend his golf.
Okay. Next up is item number 7, city manager transition discussion. What we've all been waiting for. I'll pass that to Mr. Cobbler for introduction. Kind of introduced it, but I'll let you lead the conversation. And
Well, as I said earlier, I'm now 40 some days away from leaving. So we need to come up with a plan to fill the city manager's role as I go out. And then direct staff. From my perspective, you would be directing staff to start the process to find an interim manager and also to engage a consultant to do recruitment for a full-time filling of that vacancy.
okay, I'll add some information. Obviously, we've had Mac for a year and a half, give or take, and we use Colin Basinger's search firm in that process, and we thought we had an agreement of possibly 2 years, but we couldn't find out it's only 1 year. So whatever we do from a search perspective, that would be new cost. We thought we might be able to get that search done for free, but that's not the case. So there's a cost there to go out through that firm. Obviously, we're not obliged to do that. We could do a search in-house. We can put the job out on social media and all the places and see what we get. I will say, just in my experience, and I was vocally against doing this, at least at first, last time, and I thought we could save the money and put it out and see what we get. But I will say that as I went through that process, because I was the odd man out on that, again, I'm just looking to save money. There is a lot of value in that. I don't remember what the price was, 40 grand. Do you remember, Dave?
I thought it was like 35.
35, somewhere in that ballpark, right? They do a nationwide search, and they get in all the applications, and they vet those applications thoroughly. And when they provide a packet of I think it was top 10 we got last time, it was very thorough, and we had all kind of information, and it was really a lot. You get a lot for that process. Doesn't mean you have to do that. I can tell you that since the announcement's been made, I've had several people reach out to me that are interested. So, people are watching outside of those things too. So it's really a decision here we have to make. I mean, there's always other options as well. I think that this search firm, they do temporary or interims as well, correct? Can help with that.
There's different firms that do that. I don't know necessarily if Colin, if you go with him, that's a part of the service. I think it's something that he, sets up,
right?
Through his network.
Well, we got hosed on the last one. We did that. It was almost double.
Before,
No. The interim guy that we got.
Salsaman, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. That was before. One time before.
Yeah. Two before. It was the interim before due.
Before due.
But we got jammed.
Yeah. Another thing about interims to keep in mind is
they can't bid on the job.
Well, so that
was the problem. That was the problem.
Yeah, you really want to make sure that your interim that's all he's going to do is be the interim and not going to, because what the persona is that
poison the water hole.
Exactly. Nobody wants to bid on it because they think, well, the guy's already doing the job. He's going to get it automatically.
Didn't Sussman bid?
Eventually, he did.
He bid. Yeah.
But
no, Tremblay allowed him to bid.
I said, didn't Sussman bid?
Yes.
Right. He's saying no, but
after they agreed that they would not.
I know.
And what it did is it drove everybody away, and we ended up with what we got.
Yeah, and so last time, obviously, when Matt was hired, Sal was the interim, and he was not going to apply for the process, and so we everybody that applied was going to be considered. They knew there wasn't somebody in place that would have the leg up. So.
All right. So you got some people that in mind that are potential.
I don't have anybody in mind.
No, I mean that have approached.
But I can tell you I've had a former mayor reach out. I've had a former police chief reach out. I've had Jeffrey Shoebridge reached out, who was actually had reached out last time when Matt was hired, and he actually went through the process, and he was in the top 10, but I actually tried to put him in the top 5 that we interview, but it got squashed, and then we picked the top 5, and then one of the top 5, one of those 5 dropped out, so we only interviewed 4. So I have not talked to him, but he did reach out, and he was aware of the situation.
They're willing to be interims, not permanent.
Yes. So And so what I was wondering is, obviously Matt's here for another 40 some days.
Right.
And I don't know if this is, you're counting them exactly at hours, minutes, seconds. If we have a few interested parties from an interim perspective, would you be interested, or is this would even be right to do this, to have you actually interview them for your replacement, for the interim purpose anyway?
Well,
Because I value your opinion heavily.
I mean, I think that would have to be a part of the process. I mean, it could be. It doesn't have to. It could be a part of the process. I mean, the more important piece really is that fit with you guys. So, I mean, you would have to be a part of that process.
Sure. But I mean, while you're here, obviously, you'd have a lot of knowledge from the internal workings of the city and what some of the projects going on, and you could see where some of those interim candidates they could cut the mustard or not, that we might not be able to.
Be more than happy to do that.
They say send him in so he can talk to them until we find someone
Well,
permanent.
and I would suggest if we go that route that we would put the job out
As an interim.
interim.
Yeah.
Because I think the key thing is here, let's get somebody in here quickly. And hopefully that could possibly happen before you actually leave, so that there could be a good week or two of transition.
It takes like 50 days.
And then
to hand
going
off.
forward, then we could actually look for a full-time.
What's the realistic time that they can get the job posted through this firm and do a search?
For regular?
Yeah.
Or for permanent?
Yeah.
Well,
Could they do
go
a
first.
30-day, get it out there? They've got our requirements. I mean, this isn't it.
So, I mean, the first part is the purchasing piece, right? So you have to get the firm. And so you have to decide how you're going to do it. I would recommend that you get at least 3 quotes on this. Don't just go with Colin because you've gone with Colin.
Okay.
Nothing against him. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that from a cost perspective, there may be other choices out there that do this as well.
Well, I'm wondering if he's willing to give us a break. Maybe we don't ask, you don't get, right?
Worth an ask for sure. Repeat business is always good.
But again, I mean, I think you're in a position where you don't necessarily have to go out and do a full bid. So, I mean, I think because we have a little bit longer period between council meetings. So, I mean, it would be realistic that we could start reaching out right away to these firms and getting numbers pretty quick so you could have something by the next meeting.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. That you could be reaching, we could reach out in this time period between this council meeting and next council meeting. And so you could be talking about selecting a firm to go with at the next meeting. If you do that, then there's probably a period of a couple weeks for them to put together the materials. Depending, I mean, Colin probably can get it right out. Someone else probably will do a little bit different than what he's done. So it's realistic that you're 2 weeks out from that. Then 30 to 45 days of advertising. So you're in June, sometime in June that it goes out, and you're probably interviewing sometime in August.
Yeah, I was thinking we get this and it goes May 1st, and you put a 2-week or a 3-week time limit on it, let it rip.
Mm-hmm.
We got, I don't know how many we got the last time. It seemed like we got an awful lot.
They're
because these guys are looking for jobs. People are looking for jobs.
Yeah, well, the process is a very robust process that they go through. They submit their resumes and all that, and they do background checks. I mean, thorough social media, internet. I mean, they really put a lot of work in that, and that takes time, obviously, to vet those candidates. So I think there's a time frame that they put to accept applications, and then they go through those. So maybe not as quick as could be, but obviously they got time.
It'd be good to have an interim.
Do you have a question, Chris?
Right.
I didn't have a question. I had a statement.
Statement? Go ahead.
Since this is where we lay it all out, we don't talk behind the scenes because all the sunshine stuff, we might as well just say it right now. Have we thought about a different form of government for our city? Matt, you've been wonderful. You really have. But it's hard to keep these good guys. And then if you don't get the good guys, you get somebody who's less than good. And they don't have a vested interest in the city. right? And then they just run us down a rabbit hole. Next thing you know, we're chasing our tails. What about, I mean, I can read you what a strong mayor government looks like. It says it's a municipal government structure where the mayor holds significant executive power. So that person would be somebody who has the ability to conduct business, includes authority and appointment and remove department heads, draft proposals for the budget, and exercise veto power over the council actions. So the real defense for the city would be us, the council, against a rogue guy in the mayor's position, but it would eliminate the city manager altogether. And we wouldn't have to, we'd have a vested person in our city that cares about it. We're just a small city. It's a real small city, And so I think we look at alternative ways to manage our city versus just the way we've been doing it forever. That's been a constant,
Sure, and there's also other forms as well, the commission style, where each individual commissioner has responsibility to the city again, and also in the strong mayor side, there's some strong mayors that have a city administrator that kind of carries things out, but there's just a little more cohesion there. There's a little more power, if you will, on the mayor to interface with staff, hire fire department heads, or whatever. There's varying degrees of how those things are implemented. And I think being small. There is, it's worth a discussion by all means. But nonetheless, we have to get an interim in here first. And if we find a good interim to go forth, we can have those discussions, or we can engage a firm to try to find something. But again, valid points.
I just think we need to be looking at it. Now's the time to look at it. I mean, Matt's been great. He really has been a blessing to us. But Matt's going on to other things.
Yeah.
Now we need to think about
Why are so many other smaller cities the same as we are with the city manager?
There's a lot of small cities that are strong mayor. In Virginia, there's plenty of them.
Yeah, a lot. Well, there's a lot of. So when you have a larger cities, generally are strong mayor.
Yeah.
Like Tampa.
Like Tampa,
Smaller,
yeah.
really small cities are a lot of times strong mayor. It's in between mid-sized cities and whatnot. They are overwhelmingly.
The ones I know in Virginia, they love the mayor. He's been reelected. It's his third term. He knows everybody. He conducts business. He's not doing underhanded stuff. He's always above board with everything. It's just a good situation. So I think we should look at it or talk about it.
Yeah.
Right
How do
here.
you even look at that discussion? Is that a charter item that would have to
Yeah, so it's-
change?
Yes.
That's a vote?
It would be a charter amendment and a complete overhaul of your code. Because if you get rid of your city manager, your code has to be rewritten because most of the stuff in there says city
Talks
manager
about
does
city
ABC.
manager.
But the first step would be a charter amendment, so the voters would vote on the change of the form of government.
Yeah, so we'd pass it by ordinance. So it'd be 2 readings, and then it would go to a ballot. But do you know if it would? Is that something that could be a special election ballot, or can it? It would have to go to the next.
No, I think you can call it.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why you can't.
But it does have to go to vote.
The other thing against that, the thing I say against that is the mayor would have to live in the city, right?
Well, you have to live in the city.
No. The city manager doesn't.
Well,
But the mayor would have to live in the city.
That's
so
correct.
now you're drawing from a small
pool of
population.
That's absolutely true.
So this is what my reservation is you got a small pool, and a lot of people in this community are retired. Maybe they don't want to participate. I don't know. But
On the other foot, Dave, being a resident of the city means you'd have a vested interest in
I
it, and
agree.
we wouldn't be like hightailing it and taking off and getting a new job in California.
Right. I agree. I certainly agree with that.
Matt, you have a comment?
Yeah. So if I could. So another thought is that every 3 years you could have a new mayor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
you're right
that
back
mayor
in the
could decide that I want a new finance director, I want a new operations manager, I want a new this, a new that. So potentially every 3 years you could be changing over staff.
Everything.
And so again, and that does happen. Seen a lot of it. So you know, obviously I am very biased in this.
And I would expect you to.
And I understand that concept that you may want to look at, but I think again, when you're a growing community that has a lot of dreams and desires to be bigger, better, and do all these things, consistency is the number one thing. You know, the reason I'm going back someplace is because they are consistent. They've been, they set a plan in motion almost 18 years ago. And that plan is coming to fruition right now. And that's, go next door to Newport Richey. They have grown in the last 11 years. And the reason that they've grown in the last 11 years, you can say it was the councils that came in there. You can say that it's the city manager because she's been there for 11 years. All true, but they've kept consistency in what they're doing. And, the concern would be that, because again, the mayors change on a regular basis here for a lot of different reasons.
And city managers.
And city managers, no doubt. But again, the mayors. And if the mayor is in charge of the departments and you're now changing out the public works director and the finance director every 3 years because that mayor wants their person in those roles, you're not going to have consistency. And so it's going to be probably take 1.5 to 2 years to bring those people up to speed, and then you have another election.
And you would have to have a whole different system for the mayor because there would be more requirements, I would hope.
What's the difference, Matt, between switching out your city manager every 3 years or your mayor every 3 years? Right now, we're doing the city manager all the time. You know what I mean? So it's really no difference. And as a city manager, you get to
because there's 5 of us sitting here.
I'm not getting into the real
Because there's 5 of us
differences
sitting
between what a city manager's experience, knowledge, and education is versus someone that, again, and I'm not
coming in off the street.
I'm not deriding anybody's background, but I'm saying that there is a lot of difference between someone that is trained and educated and has experience in running a city versus someone that their other job has nothing to do with running government. And again, with all due respect, why you have a city manager is that you guys don't have to worry about all those technical things.
But you get a mayor, doesn't get reelected. If you don't get dredging, he don't get reelected. And you get someone else in here and they overrule you. You think you're going to handle what's going on? He's fired. He's going to put his own people in here.
Yeah, so
you can't vote on that.
So
you can vote on policies, but
you can't tell Matt who to hire either, right?
What's
Matt will hire whoever he wants to, right?
That's true, but I don't hire my friends. And the history of strong mayor governments in small cities are they bring in their friends.
Yeah, they will.
That is what started the profession of city managers back in the early 1900s was the idea of patronage, that strong mayors brought in their friends and they were rewarding people for the vote rather than basing their abilities on experience and knowledge in what they do. And again, I think that it's again, I see across the United States a lot of well-run, mayor-led, strong mayor governments. I see that. But there's a big history, just like in city manager form too. I mean, there's a lot of well-run, and there's some that aren't very well-run. I would say though that cities that do it right with council manager forms, it starts out not trying to be, cheap, and not paying what a city manager is worth. It comes from how you select a city manager. City managers, first off, you have to jive with that manager, right? I mean, you have to have comfort that he's going or she's going to do whatever you need her to do to make the right decisions. But then, you have to look at the background and people hire, managers that's been fired 3 or 4 times.
To your point,
my role is 1, by the way. 1 firing, after that it becomes questionable.
The mayor comes in and brings his own personnel, which you'd have control over. At the same time, you have the mayor and Sal could work together. When he's gone, I mean, they could or we get an interim to help him out. But if he fires somebody, like I said, you can't fire him. If Matt fires someone, we can fire him if he's not doing what we want. He's not handling personnel right. We can fire him. You can't fire the mayor.
Under the city council,
yes.
Under strong mayor, you can't control the mayor from the city council.
No.
No.
Well,
Mayor just does whatever he
well,
wants.
hold on.
That's what you're asking.
There's certain limitations, but he is your CEO. He's running it.
So
All CEOs are terminated.
But
so
that's what I'm saying. Right now, the five of us can say, Matt, you're not doing your job. Goodbye.
actually, three of us.
No, just three of us can.
But so there's varying, and I'm not advocating for this either way. I'm just being transparent. I'm on the ballot in April, so whatever we do, you may or may not have me sitting here. Now, obviously, from my perspective, I would guarantee you that I could do that and do it well. But my fear would be who would come after me. And so and when you make a charter change to change your government style, that until it's changed again, that goes for a long time. And once you make that change, let's say it gets through. Let's say people like me and want to see me here, and then I drop dead after the election, and all of a sudden you've got to elect a new mayor. There's no guarantee they're going to get what they.
And it would only be a resident.
So
There's no guarantees. And I'm not trying to.
Well, no.
Please don't think I'm trying to ride us down the road. I'm not. I'm just trying to get us to think.
We're just having a
What if we
friendly
got 10
discussion.
or 11 years out of you before you went to be with Jesus, okay? And you did great things in the city and got lots of traction. Then all of a sudden we're like, we really don't feel comfortable with this, and we switched it back.
It would have to go to vote again.
It has to go to vote again. That's the.
You don't just say, oops.
And then it might not pass. So you might perpetuate that style government in perpetuity, right? So there are real risks, and I'll be 100% transparent. There are things within the council manager form of government that is very hard to operate under, without a doubt. It's imperative that all of us as council members and me as a mayor, wherever sitting in these seats, have a good working relationship with the city manager. And at the end of the day, any three of us, if he's not doing his job, we put him on the street. And so that protection is very real and can happen tonight. We can take a vote tonight. And it just happens. Now, there's also contractual things or whatever that could lead to that. But going back to the mayor position, obviously, unless I do something that by charter allows the council to remove me or whatever, which there are provisions in there, right? Again, me, we're sitting here. Outside of that, it has to go every 3 years for an election. The good thing about that, obviously, is that mayor and council is directly tied to the people. There's that buffer, obviously. So somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I got this problem or whatever." I can't go to Daryl and say, "What's going on over there? The water, it's had issues, and the building's all out of whack." Or whatever. I have to go to Matt, ties Matt up, but Matt has been very, very good about taking care of those and researching those issues. Now, again, the part I hate about it is that I can't do some of that legwork for him. It all has to fall on him, which takes him away from other things he has to do. But that's the nature of the position. But it's a structure that's tough to work in, and I tell you, losing, and I don't want to tout on you too much, but I will. Matt has been a godsend for this community, 100%. I've worked under just him and over him and Duke, and I can tell you night and day difference. And I've been familiar with some of the other city managers. We really hit the jackpot with Matt. Will we be able to replace Matt? I have my reservations, which really is a concern, but hopefully we will. But that's the real fear is whoever we get in here, if he's not Matt, we may have trouble with him. But
we still got Sal.
On the flip side of that, if we don't like it, we have the ability to fire him and go to the well again.
And if we do it within the 1 year period, then we'll get.
Eric,
yeah.
Do we have the ability to study this, look at it? I mean, is it worth us? I mean, we're talking about it now. I see some apprehension from the council people, and I get that. But shouldn't we not? Don't we have a responsibility to at least look at it?
Oh, I'm all for having a discusussion, and again, there's varying degrees of that. I mean, you could talk about hiring friends and whatnot. You could put a strong mayor thing where the department head firings and hirings have to go through council.
That takes away that card.
So there's things you can structure it to make it better to
put controls in place, right?
And just coming from years and years and years in business, asking Matt what he thinks about that is not the right thing to do, because Matt's 100% pro, what he does, you know, and that's going to,
At the end of the day, whatever decision we would do on that would go to vote, and the residents would decide whether they want that or not.
Right.
And I would, if we ever was to do something like that, I'd want to be as transparent as possible to explain to them, and we would spend a lot of time drafting what that would look like, right? Because again, there's varying degrees of how that, you can be totally strong, or you can be kind of strong and have that tie in. But
so how do we study that or look at that? No disrespect to Matt, I'm just saying.
We have somebody in the room that was a mayor at a strong mayor city, don't we?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What's that? I'm sorry, Bob.
We have someone here that was a mayor in a strong city.
Yeah, Matt Douglas was a strong mayor in Taylorsville, Kentucky. So, but I think if I would imagine that would be a workshop type of thing that we would entertain, and we would talk about it, and we could definitely look at that. But the immediate need right now is replacing Matt.
To get an interim.
Get an interim, and while we have an interim, if it's a good interim, we can start to have those discussions and see. And if we get to a point where we want to put it to vote, we could do that. And if it passes, then we would basically let the interim go, and it would be done. Or if it doesn't pass, we move on with hiring.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we have a responsibility to look at it, and then what we find out. I mean, if we find out it's no good, we can say that's terrible. Don't do that, and we might find out it's good. So I thought at least worth the effort to talk about.
I'm definitely against it.
There was two things that were said here. Eric mentioned that we hit the jackpot with Matt, and Matt said, "What you don't realize is I've got the training to understand where the problems are."
Exactly.
And he has been spot on every time we're going through the charter where he's pointed things out time and time after again where things were really out of line.
No, he spoiled
weren't
us.
aligned.
Because he's got the background.
And he's got the formal education to do that. Coming in off the street, I'm not sure any of us would have all of that in a package like he is. Okay.
All of us together wouldn't have what he has.
The
He's doing a certain thing.
only other situation that I can tell you that may be very effective, okay, is for somebody, because Matt's very reserved, very smart. I mean, so far from what I've seen, Matt's highly intelligent, educated, been around, you know, but Matt, what's the longest you've stayed in one place before?
9 years.
9 years.
Where's infill?
So he has some experience, but maybe for our city and the growth we're at right now, we don't need a guy who's, you know, safe. We need somebody who's a risk taker. We need somebody to take some chances. And then you have an attorney who's like, well, hold on a minute here. Here's the governor. You know, they hold down on. That's what that's for. But you might need somebody a little more risk taking in that position. I'm just saying. I mean, you know, entrepreneurs who build, you know, multi-million-dollar companies, they take chances. They take risks. And our city right now is in a place where we don't need to be safe. We need to take, and forgive me when I say not safe, but we need to take some risks. We need
They took
to
the risk with their money, not the citizens' money.
What's that?
Risk with their money, not citizens'
Yeah, but we've been put forward here to get the city out of the ditch, and we've been chartered by our people by voting, trusted to say, hey, we need to take some chances. I can tell you right now,
For 100 years.
Newport Richey has not gotten to where they are because they sat back on their laurels. They got there because they took serious chances. They took bashings from people. They all kinds of things. They put up that sign across the road there.
With a city manager. They have a city manager.
Well, so
I'm not talking about that issue.
I don't know if you know this or you, Matt. The city of Port Richey wasn't always a city manager run. It was back to 80s or something. I think they changed. Was it strong mayor before that, or
It was commission, wasn't it?
commission? Yeah, I think it was. You're right. It was commission before, which basically it's each one of the council members would have responsibilities for the different department heads.
I mean, I'm shifting gears on the strong mayor thing, just trying to get us to think a little bit. You know, what I want to do is get us to get out of that box and look at some other possibilities.
And even with the council manager, former governor, I think there's flexibility within the charter that we can build in some of the things that bother us about that form. Correct? I mean, you kind of have a hybrid, if you will, and still have that expert that's accountable to the council that carries out day-to-day things, but could provide us with a little more ability to interact with staff or whatever. You know, there's things we could do, and by all means, I think we ought to look at everything that we can improve upon.
If we were even possibly ever going to go that route, that whole scenario is going to take a long time.
Right.
A very, very
Yes.
long
It's
time.
not going to be in
And
this
this is
cycle.
what happens a lot of times with this cat. You get so far off on something that is not now, and it's not what we need to be talking about right now. I'm not saying we can't look into that, but that wouldn't, even if we went that route, it would never happen right away. We've got what, Matt? 40, less than 43. We've got a certain direction that we've got to go.
I get it.
And we don't need to be, off thinking of all these other scenarios that aren't going to happen within the next 45 days when we need to be doing something.
Yeah, no.
So we're
you're exactly
totally,
right.
and this is what drives me crazy about council. You know that. You all know that. We have something to talk about. Stick with it. You talk about things not getting done. It's because we can't finish a thought.
This is my first meeting.
It is your first
Hold on,
meeting.
let me finish.
No, let me. I'm talking.
Then I'll be quiet until you talk. Go ahead.
I am talking. It is your first meeting, and I understand that. So this isn't all directed at you. This is directed at all of us. And this is why some of these meetings go on just forever, because we circle around something, we circle around it, we circle around it. We are not going to get a mayor government in the next 45 days. However, we do need to do something. So why don't we just focus on that, and then we can look at the rest of this. I'm not saying we can't look at it, and I'm not directing this at you, Chris. I'm just saying it is so frustrating when this council gets just around and around.
Yeah.
Let's focus on what we need to talk about. What we need to talk about is Max leaving, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For us, he's leaving. Now what are we going to do?
Yeah, and we have to find at least an interim in that time frame. Your comment?
Are you done, ma'am?
Yep, I
Thank
am.
you. I've been in this situation before. I've been here years ago, decades ago, where you come into an older situation and somebody new comes in, they've got all these ideas, and they're like, oh, sit on him, shut him up. He might have a crazy idea to change the whole thing. Yeah, we're going to sit in here. We're going to talk till 10 o'clock. We're going to do all those things because our city right now needs our help. So the new guy's going to come in and he's going to throw these crazy ideas up against the wall. We're going to have to look at them, and as a council, we're supposed to go through them, and we're supposed to decipher whether some of it's valid, because everything I say is not going to be valid. But if I just sit over here and you say, Chris, do you have anything to say? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Let's go home. What good am I doing here? I'd rather just go back to what I was doing before I came here. But if I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to take us places that we're not used to going. So please forgive me in advance.
No,
for that.
no.
I'll sit us here until 10 o'clock at night. If you're mad about that, I'm sorry.
No, you have a right to say things. When you can get your point out, and then what we do is we all agree to talk about it later.
Yeah.
Because it isn't on the agenda.
That's all
for
I was
tonight.
doing.
And I think that's where we were. So let's just table that discussion. We absolutely can talk about that.
Yes.
We can, and again, first thing at hand, let's focus on getting a interim in here. And so what I would propose, and again, I'm not the end all say all here, you guys, but I think what we probably ought to do is I will forward the names that have reached out to me to Matt. Have the city go ahead and put a job out there and all the different, and there's actually, I think, the city manager, you probably get access to the city manager.
Yeah, we'd probably just do Florida.
Yeah, for an interim, and give us a 2 weeks.
Does Florida League of Cities have any?
They have a certain size as well. So just basically put it out everywhere that we have, like our HR would do for any other job posting. Looking for interim. Let's see what we get. In the meantime, as well, we go to look at the firms, Colin and otherwise, and start moving down that process. Like we're going to reach out and see what's out there from a permanent perspective. And I think we focus on that. That's all we need to do right now until we figure out where we're at. Yeah, and ideally, we find an interim relatively quickly. They get some turnover, and we continue to move the ball down the road. And then once that's in place, then we can talk about either looking a little further at government styles, hybrids, whatever, or moving forward with a search firm to put out for permanent. That sound fair?
Yep.
Okay. Is it all or none? I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking. Why are we doing them all at the same time?
The interim would be obviously first. We have to do that.
Yep.
Because once he's gone, we got to have somebody, because we don't have the power. what would happen if we didn't have an interim in place? We'd have to put one in
You
place.
find one. Quick.
Okay. Just another option, obviously, if anybody wants to resign their seat, they could be the interim city manager. So that's always out there. But no, let's focus on putting that out there, get that in, and then once we solidify that interim, that would be the time we could say, okay, do we want to have a discussion? Maybe we have a workshop and talk about it. But at that point, we've got somebody in place doing the job.
Yeah, there's some qualified people that would. I'm pretty sure Matt will like with that.
I think a workshop's a good idea because then you can. I mean, the community
Public can come out
always
and-
invited. They're invited to
I
everything.
want
But
all
Tom,
their help too. And
It's
I don't
a-
want us
yeah.
all being the decision. Let's get some input.
It's a workshop, and here's what we're
Don, I was
talking
going
about.
to take
It's
at
like
least 30 days.
turnout.
More.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff we got.
So
working on.
that fair by consensus? Any objections to that methodology?
I'm all for that.
Anything else you need from?
So as far as pay for an interim, is that anything we even?
That's negotiated once we select.
Right.
It'll,
Okay. Based on
But
experience.
but that's a good question because when we put it out to bid, we probably need a range out there, I guess, right? For interim or?
But
I don't know necessarily for an interim you need to, but I mean, what? So again, interims generally don't get any of the benefits, so you're going to potentially be paying
they're
a little
more
bit
salary-wise.
more. Yeah.
when he interviews them, that's going to be a question he's going to ask them. What are you looking for to do this? And then we can determine on that person based on that also. So it may not be much, it may be too much.
Right, and depending on the caliber person, we
Well,
probably pay a
that's
little
what I'm
lower,
saying.
a little higher.
But
You could strike gold on the first shot and find, well, this guy, he's going to
Right.
be a good guy. That
Matt,
we
so
need
we-
to keep him.
But Matt's good at determining that.
Yeah.
We trust Matt on that.
Matt, when you do interview these people or grab the applications order, what is the process for us to participate? How's that work?
Well, my expectation would be all I do is give you insight into what I think.
Okay.
Right. I mean,
And then we'd
because-
interview him.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys will have to meet him and talk about it.
I would not be the person to tell you who you want.
I shoot
You
an
know,
email.
I will tell you
What
what
you
I
feel.
think.
I got
What I
you.
think.
You can probably tell us who we don't want.
I could probably tell you that.
That's what I really want to get out of you. Who we don't want.
Okay.
But we work through that process. But let's post the position as interim, and I'll forward the names that I know of that are interested in that.
Okay.
Former attorney in there too as well. I mean, I have 4 or 5 people that have reached out. So,
Old business now.
is there anything else on the city manager session? Think we good? Okay. Old business.
Thank you.
I'll let you go right off the bat.
Well, I have a lot, but since it's after 9, don't have anything, Dave.
Well, is there anything? Is there anything really pressing you don't want to wait?
No, nothing pressing.
Okay.
Or I would say something.
Okay. I just want to make sure you get your time. Dave, do you have anything? Old business.
Yeah, let's see. I got an Excel file with 300 pages here. But because
You need to listen to Bob on this one.
But because I didn't get it until late this afternoon, I'm going to have to save that for another day. But I do have a couple items. And these are things I can work offline with Matt on. They're not that critical.
Old business or council comments?
This is old business.
Do we have anything on? Oh,
You know this is old business, right? It's not. You still got council comments to come.
okay. Yeah, okay. I'm good then.
Okay. Good read.
Yep.
See, that's the kind of stuff.
See? Focus.
So I do have
Well,
just
I've been up since 3, so
right. So I do have just a couple quick things on the US 19 Grand Boulevard intersection improvements. Is the status here? It says the drawings and agreement are under engineer's QC review, and they're expected to be uploaded to FDOT's permitting portal early next week. Is that current or is that old? Where are we at with that? I thought it was getting ready to go out to bid.
No. We're still working through getting the permit from FDOT.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and so that's
Which
what
it's
this,
like it's like week to week. They're waiting on FDOT to finalize getting the permit.
And
So,
that- so-
the engineer checks with them every week.
So-
it's like week to week.
How long has it been? Because I'll make a phone call tomorrow on that. How long has it been since FDOT we put it into that? When did they start?
We
their
just
time?
had that meeting.
Was in March is when we had the pre-application.
Yeah, we had a preemptive meeting with FDOT with the FDOT in March, and that was like mid to late March, and then now we're in mid April.
So when did we upload to upload the stuff to FDOT's permitting portal.
They just did that. The engineer just did that. So
Like last week?
Yeah.
So what's the expected time frame on it normally? Any idea?
I
I probably don't even make a call if it's just last week.
Maybe 30 to 45 days.
So let's do this. If you guys could stay on that next council meeting, if you haven't had any further progress on that, let me make that phone call. Okay. Nix Park ramp fees allowance. The same status been here for a while. Have we gotten anywhere with that?
I've not been asked to do anything.
Yeah, so that, I mean, we were waiting to see how we were going to do the redesign of Nix Park and figure that in there, because we're going to have to figure out how to get the kiosk and the gate. So I mean, that's
Okay, so we really can't do anything unless we were just going to put an envelope system out there or something. So
You fix the boat ramp first.
yeah, I get it.
Right.
Okay, that's curious where we're at. That's speed traffic signs on Old Post Road. We put, and so that's new. So we put 2 signs on Old Post Road. You put them out there. I believe they have data gathering capability. Have we? Huh?
I do gather the information.
So if we analyze that at all, 'cause they've been there for several months. I'm just curious if it's been effective. I know a lot of residents complain about that area. Of course, a lot of those homes are probably from the flood have not been there, but I'm just curious if it's curbing the speed.
Nobody's tried to beat the land speed record yet, so.
Okay, good. So they seem to be effective. Yeah, if you guys just kind of monitor those so that because obviously if they're effective, we want to deploy those in other places in the city as well. So okay, that's all I have for old business. You guys have any old business? No old business. Okay, so then moving on to comments from the mayor and city council, I will start with Councilwoman Burke. I'll let you go first.
Well, I want to welcome the police chief to his first meeting. I hope you still like it here. And Chris, this is his first meeting too, so welcome aboard. And I think I said plenty of other things tonight, so I'm good now.
Okay, Vice Mayor, that's a mouthful.
I just want to say, man, this is really exciting. I've built multiple companies in my life. I've made lots of money, and nothing satisfies me more than being able to give back to the community that I live in and my family lives in. So I'm thankful, Frank, you're here right now. The police chief's passionate about things. I'm thankful for Daryl and what you do for our city. Man, I've watched you, brother. You've done so many wonderful things around our city. Sometimes you don't get enough recognition for the things you do. I just want to tell you from my own perspective as a resident, I recognize it. Thank you so much. Our staff right here, listen, you guys do the work of about 4 people each, and I'm so thankful for each one of you, and I really mean that. So thank you so much for that. Mr. Cobbler, I wish you were staying, because you and I would have got along real good. I would have been that thorn all the time. And you would have had to perform at the highest levels in your life. And you'll miss that. You'll miss me on that.
Tell us the truth. When you found out Chris got elected, that's why you said it. Not at all.
I just want to say to the residents who elected me, to the people in this room right here, I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of your comfort zone and put you into a place where we perform at the best level this city has ever performed at. It's not that I'm great. It's just that I'm that fire starter. I'm the igniter. So, Mr. Merrick, with all due respect, and I have a ton for you. I want you to know that. I'm excited about this relationship, this time for me to be here. So thank you all for that. I could go on with the plenty of things that I believe in. I believe we've got the best little gift here in the Port Richey area ever, where we're located on the water. We have an unbelievable opportunity here in front of us right now. Properly energized, properly taking chances. Nancy, keep us out of trouble in prison. Thank you.
Right.
But we have the opportunity right now to change this whole dynamic right now, be the best little vacation place for people to come, with a soaring economy, with plenty of money to fix our problems. But it's going to take chances, and it's going to take guys like me, my council lady, that are going to irritate the crap out of you, okay? Most of the time at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, but I'm going to take us places that we're not used to going, because some of the stuff I say is going to be very valid and very good. And we're going to grow from it. Some of the stuff may not be, and you're going to have to learn to read me like a book and use me for the skills that I have. So I'm excited. I've got pure intent on helping our city right now, but I want us to be the greatest city there is. And I want to make sure that the people who are out there who have entrusted us at the end of our terms or at the end of our lives, they're able to look back and say, man, that council and mayor and those people got some stuff done, and we have a great place to live for it. So that's all I wanted to leave you with tonight.
Yeah, we appreciate having you. Look forward to working with you for sure. Councilman.
So, on that note, I would recommend that you reach out to Sal and Daryl and meet Sammy over at Waterworks and the
schedule.
Yeah, we're going to be scheduling that. Yeah.
and go meet some of the people out there working in the field, and you'll appreciate even more. There are a lot of good people out there, and you need to go out and meet those.
Maybe we should, in council, we should go do that together.
Well, so basically, since Matt got here, he's put that in place where you meet with all department heads.
Love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so when do I get started?
So that's
I'm
call
going
up
to
Sal and
schedule those meetings with the department heads
Awesome.
with you and them.
Awesome. Thank you.
that's it.
That's it. Councilman Mueller.
I got a few items.
I figured you did.
I've looked at the red light camera tickets, and I was looking as of February. I just got the March data today. So next time, maybe we can talk about that. And I mentioned about the auction fees, and I'm going to get together with the new chief to kind of go with some ideas. If I can, since he's new, I'd like to circle. All of us probably need to circle through him at some point in time. And I appreciate that. Let's see. I noticed that the business tax, the business certificates for, looks like they're running to the positive for a change here. So evidently the efforts you've been doing to collect that, it's been pretty good. We got 89%, which is good. I would also like to get a handle on what are the waived permit amounts for that, as well as golf cart registrations. We've only collected $150. We had budgeted $1,600, but that's not a lot of money. But the point is I don't know if we got a process in place. It might be a process issue. And fire inspections, they're actually way up. So that's good. You guys are doing a damn job down there. And then we did a 5-year plan on the Penny for Pasco, and some of these discussions that we've had tonight about, hey, I'm buying this truck. It's budgeted. Maybe we need to talk about that format so that we can just go snap to it and say, oh, okay, I had a $75,000 budget. We're spending $62,000, so we got that delta as a positive that we can use to spend other things. Okay, so if we just take a look at what we've spent and bump it up against that report, we probably need to have that kind of fleshed out a little bit. Other than that, I attended one of these meetings with the Coastal and the Salt Strong guys. When we went to a meeting there last night, to a fishing club meeting, they had some ideas on building a kayak launch or getting a kayak launch built at Brasher Park, as well as the bathrooms. And I assured them that, hey, we'll take that into consideration and try to get that addressed. Also, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we went to the Energy and Marine Center out there at the end of Old Post Road. They've got a seminar coming up, how to create hanging oyster reefs from your dock. And it's actually the same day, May 10th, that the car show is. So that's coming up, something to think about. And other than that,
I can do that.
I
got oysters hanging from my
took the liberty of summarizing all those goals in those goal planning sessions that we did back in about this time last year. And the mayor's right. Item number.
Say it one more time, sir.
The mayor was actually right that item number 6A1, construct a new public safety facility for the fire department. It was the number one list on strengthening Port Richey's ability so it can be safe, a resilient community by delivering high quality public safety services. And that was a priority. But what I'd like to do is, and this probably needs to be a annual, maybe semi-annual review, charting progress on this and making sure that these things are assigned to either departments or people, and look at a progress report, because we had almost 100 items on this list. I think it was, I had 113 lines. It's less than that because I got headings in here, but say 100 items. And it's real difficult to keep track of that unless you're actually got a process to review that periodically. So, and I can share that with you, Matt, to share with your team, and potentially get some of these items completed, because they have been completed, and it's always good assurance that you see that you're making progress to your goals. And this was our vision. So I'll share that with you guys.
Thank Dave. Just two quick things. In regard, this is probably more CRA related, so maybe next time we have a CRA meeting or whatever. But obviously, our Grand Boulevard planning we've talked about, and that there's and obviously I think Matt's been doing some work behind the scenes on properties over there that the old blue building that tore down. I think there's interest there for the city, but there's also some. I told him about a couple homes there that look like they're vacated or whatever. I think we probably need to start looking at some acquisition along Grand Boulevard, as well as planning for that. And probably planning should always come first. But obviously, if there's opportunity for land acquisition, now would be the time to do that. We do got, we do have several. What's our CRA balance? $4 or $5 million. And one thing to keep in mind: the legislator is actively seeking to remove the ability to have CRAs. There's probably going to be a bill passed to start sunsetting those. Last I heard from our lobbyist, I think the original thing was sunsetted by 2035. I think they've negotiated it to go to 2045. Is that correct? I think it's where that ends up. I don't know. And then the ability to start new projects or whatever. But anyway, we need to get on the ball to look at where we're going to revitalize, what we're going to do with CRA funding. And so I think Grand Boulevard is probably the next logical place to really focus on as the waterfront develops with these other developments. So just to give you an update on that, I talked to Ryan, and he's actually bringing something to the city to engage with the city staff on initial plans very, very soon. So that's something going on as well. So do we, from a land acquisition, do we need kind of consensus to move forward to look at things, or?
I had that. We were planning on having a CRA meeting tonight, but we couldn't get things situated to get it done. But two topics that I had on the agenda that we'll have for the 13th agenda will be getting permission to move forward with putting out an RFQ for planning, developing a planning document for Grand Boulevard, and the second is talking about property acquisition, because we need to be kind of directed, because again, one of the steps in acquiring property is we're going to have to do appraisals of the property to develop, what the base number is going to be. So we need direction on which properties you want to go at. So it'll be a discussion.
Yeah, if before that meeting, and or maybe during that meeting we talk about it, but if we could maybe have staff go out there and kind of drive down Grand Boulevard and kind of target some of those things that might be of interest. Like I said, those two properties there obviously are in a state of disrepair. The doors open, walls are all tore out. Again, they're not for sale that I could see, but they're probably already out from under, because it's really just those couple residential homes on that street. So that might be an opportunity. But if you can't take an inventory and bring back for us to talk about what we want to look at.
Keep track of the tax note.
Yeah. And then the second thing, and I will need a consensus for this, is annexation. Our planning and zoning board, I guess at one time we had an annexation board, but I'll read out our code, section 801, city planning and zoning board, item D, is to assume all the duties and responsibilities previously assigned by the charter to the annexation board. Item number 1, pursue the logical annexation of contiguous lands. 2, prepare a program to present to property owners the reasons why they should annex the city. 3, to develop an annex timetable and 5-year plan. So I would like for consensus of the council to engage our planning and zoning board as the annexation board and really start moving forward on that. We've got some enclaves that should be relatively easy to pick up. Matt's been doing some work in the background on that. There was some code out there, which I'd also like Nancy to take a look at, that when we have water service up outside the city, I believe he'd read some code that stated that when we offered them that service, they took it, they were beholden to annex at the time we look forward to it. However, it's very old. And so if you could kind of look at that and see what legs that would have as far as, because obviously when you go to annex, there's a vote process. But if we have something in our code that basically when that beholds them to actually do that, it makes it a lot easier obviously to bring it in. So
how does that differ between residential and commercials? Because typically commercial don't vote, right?
Yeah, residential, if there's residential property, that's a vote. If it's not residential, then it's 51% of the land area, owners of the land area are looking to annex, have to sign off on it.
Well, that's a lot of property right around here is commercial.
Yeah.
It's checkerboarded. We need to get
So
that
if you look
resolved
at one
first.
property, what do you mean 51%?
Well, if it's one property.
Then he says, no, you're out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you have to build a case. Why is it good to annex?
yeah, and so our planning and zoning board, that's what their part of their role is to start putting that together. So is there any objections to tasking them with moving forward with annexation and hyperspeed?
Let's do it.
Okay.
But, while you're on that subject,
sure,
having boards, really active boards now, would it be out of line to give some consideration to these folks that you give them a $50 or $100 every time they meet, so that it's something that we're not just passing off? I mean, these guys spend a lot of time looking and researching that. That's something that we can do as a council. How does that?
In your experience, planning and zoning boards, are they ever paid in any capacity?
There's some. I mean, but it's in the charter that specifically says that they're compensated at $25 a meeting or something. Yeah.
So
it's in the charter, but if it's not in the charter, I
where
guess you have to worry about the state statute and see what the state statute says. And
I don't know of any that are, but I can look at it and see if there's any reason you can't.
Is if we were to look at that during the budgeting process to compensate them something for that, is that something we can do by ordinance, or would have to go to charter? Okay.
I have to see if it's allowed, and if it's allowed, if there's any requirements.
Okay. Yeah. If you would mind, is there any objection to her looking into seeing what? Because I agree. If
Just P and Z.
I'd say probably just P and Z, because they're really the ones that are going to do a lot of pertinent work. That's all. It's all pertinent. Let me rephrase that. But as far as zoning, and they're regularly active meeting. They got a lot of.
That's that, and then you've got the coastal groups also kind of active, pretty active.
Right.
So
Let's talk about this more later.
Yeah, well, so in general, it wouldn't be split in
Yeah.
zoning. We can.
I'm on the
I will
coastal
make
group.
it a
Would that be double
broad
dipping?
search, but focus on P and Z.
Okay, sounds good. And that is all I have. So.
oh, wait a minute. Didn't we appoint him to a meeting that we needed to have another vote on or something? What was that meeting?
Oh, well, a couple things on board. So,
Yeah.
have you resigned from Board of Adjustment? Okay, that needs to happen
Ashley,
yesterday.
You can just send the email.
Yeah, send her email when you get home. Resign.
Oh, I think it was.
And Bob is he's already on 21-25.
Right.
Lesson on that. Don't leave the room.
Yeah. Along the same line.
Yeah.
Linda has not resigned from CAC as of yet, but she's not the council representative. And again, there's no formal council representative. But I just put it out there. Is anybody interested in? Because obviously that committee is on life support at this point. I think they only got 5. And if she was right, there'd be 4. I think the minimum has to be 3 or 5?
These are big.
I don't know, it's 5, but while she's looking at that, is there any interest in?
9 on that or whatever? I don't know.
Nine positions.
9.
Right, 9, and I know we changed it, their quorum requirements is whoever's
We
on
took
it,
it down to 4.
but I think there's a minimum size. Is there anybody interested in being on CAC as the council liaison? No.
I mean, I'm not saying I won't be, but I'd like to take a couple deep breaths after my first meeting before I.
Yeah, we can talk about it next time.
Heart's full right
Just
now.
step out to the restroom. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. If you wouldn't mind stepping out just for a second. Yeah. So yeah, all of you, if that's something you want, because obviously we want to tag that committee because there's a lot of good things that committee can do for us. And so we want to make sure that's moving forward. So
David, I both did it for like 5 years.
it's 5. So yeah, we have to have 5 to operate, and so right now we're at 5. So
And people volunteer.
yeah, so we need to encourage participation.
All right.
Let's look for a motion for the.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.